Chapter 2838. At this moment, Lin Sun had undoubtedly become the center of attention in Yuan sect. The disciples of the three pavilions all had complicated expressions on their faces. Before he entered the Sky Pavilion and became a disciple, Lin Sun could only be regarded as a shining star in the Nine Peaks. He was in the limelight and had little influence on the disciples of the three pavilions, because among the disciples of the three pavilions, there was no lack of undying realm existences. At that time, Lin Sun was just an ancestor of Juing. No matter how great his influence was, it was limited to this realm. But now it was completely different. Today, he had proven his undying Tao, transcending from the ancestor realm and leaping into the ranks of the heavenly longevity realm. If that was the case, it wouldn't be enough to make people feel pressured. However, as the battle in the Heaven's Judgment Arena came to an end and Qi Lingzhen, Zhong Liran, Gu Xiaoyin, and Fu Chaoxing were killed, Lin Sun had already used bloody battle records to prove that even though he had just vindicated his Tao, his strength far surpassed most of the immortal realm disciples of the three pavilions. After all, Qi Lingzhen was the #1 disciple of Origin Void Pavilion, and he wasn't the slightest bit inferior to the #1 disciples of Origin Void Pavilion and Origin Clarity Pavilion. But under the joint attack of Qi Lingzhen and the other three, they were all killed by Lin Sun one by one. It could be imagined how terrifying Lin Sun, who had just broken through the realm, was. As a result, indescribably complicated emotions surged within the disciples of the three pavilions at this moment. There was deep fear, as well as a faintly discernible sense of loss and bitterness. It had only been a year since Lin Sun entered the Yuan sect, but he had already become a core disciple of the Ninth Peak, a disciple of Sky Origin Pavilion, attained immortality, and killed Qi Lingzhen and the others. This glorious battle record was simply suffocating. At the same time, the rise of Lin Sun made the vice-deacons of the three pavilions feel great pressure. Among the three pavilions, each pavilion had a fixed number of 24 deputy deacons. Every disciple who wanted to advance to become a deputy deacon had to have the cultivation of the undying heavenly longevity realm. Moreover, they had to defeat one of the 24 deputy deacons in order to take over their position. There was no doubt that Lin Sun now had such qualification and foundation. How could the 24 deputy deacons of the Sky Origin Pavilion dare to ignore this? Once their positions were replaced, it meant that they would become ordinary disciples from deputy deacons. In the past, such things rarely happened, because anyone that was capable of becoming a vice-deacon possessed extremely terrifying reserves and might. Even though their positions would be challenged, it was extremely difficult to replace them. For example, Qi Lingzhen was the #1 disciple of the Origin Sky Pavilion. However, he had challenged the Origin Sky Pavilion many times in the past 300 years, and all of them had ended in failure. It was obvious how difficult it was to become a vice-deacon. But it was different now. Lin Sun's rise was too swift, and the combat strength he possessed was too formidable. It caused the vice-deacons of Sky Pavilion to not dare overlook his existence. In short, even though this battle had come to an end, its influence was extremely profound, and it had already affected the understanding and opinion of everyone in the Yuan sect towards Lin Sun. Alright, what happened today is also an eye-opener for me. Lin Sun has a superb foundation and incredible combat power. He is destined to shine in Yuankong Pavilion in the future. I'm looking forward to his future performance. Amidst the noisy atmosphere, Fu Wenli suddenly clapped her hands and exclaimed in admiration. Everyone was startled, and the clamorous atmosphere became much quieter. Everyone had strange expressions on their faces, as they could not understand what the Fu Wenli meant. Logically speaking, he should not like and reject Lin Sun very much. But at this moment, he was generous in his praise and expectation. He is indeed outstanding. From ancient times to the present, there are few outstanding successors like Lin Sun in the four ancestral courts. Qi Wen also opened his mouth, full of emotion. This made the atmosphere more and more strange. It became silent, and people were in a state of shock and doubt. In the arena of heaven's judgment, Lin Sun frowned and became slightly vigilant. The more magnanimous and generous the old fellows of his enemy's forces were, the more generous they were with their praises. Instead, it made him feel a hidden danger in his heart, and he instinctively became vigilant. Immediately, he abandoned the distracting thoughts, cupped his hands and said, "Seniors, you are overpraising me." He looked calm, and no one could tell whether he was happy or angry. Qi Xiaoyun, who had been silent and gloomy, stared at Lin Sun at this moment and said in a deep voice, "No, you are really outstanding. This is not an overpraise. You should be happy. I believe your senior brothers and sisters in Mountain of Mind and Heart, your relatives and friends in the Starry Sky Ancient Path, and the Luo family will be happy and proud for you when they know your achievements today." Hearing this, Lin Sun's pupils suddenly narrowed. Was this a threat? The atmosphere became more and more silent, and people all sensed something unusual. Before Lin Sun could speak, Xian Feiling suddenly laughed heartily and said, "Lin Sun is the descendant of the ninth peak, and now he has made such dazzling achievements. Although this is the result of his personal cultivation, it is also inseparable from the cultivation of Qin Wuyu, the head of the ninth peak. So, can the impeachment against Qin Wuyu end now?" As he said, he looked at Fu Wenli and Qi Xiaoyun. All the big shots present also looked at them. During this period of time, the important people led by Qi Xiaoyun had started to impeach Qin Wuyu, causing him to be in an extremely difficult situation. Many of the elders were eager to take action, trying to seize this opportunity to fight for the position of the ninth summit's peak master. The reason why Qin Wuyu was impeached was also inseparable from Lin Sun. This was something that everyone knew. Under such circumstances, Xian Feiling suddenly mentioned this matter, which was tantamount to directly stepping forward to protect Qin Wuyu. "I agree. I also agree." Immediately, Du Guyong, Fang Daoping and other deputy pavilion masters also spoke out one after another. Then, Yu Wuchou, the head of the first peak, Yu Xiangding, the head of the fifth peak, Wen Dongmian, the head of the sixth peak, Tian Wucua, the head of the seventh peak, and Sang Zhongxue, the head of the eighth peak, all spoke out in support of Xian Feiling's proposal. The expressions of Fu Wenli, Qi Xiaoyun, and the others darkened greatly when they saw such a situation. They didn't expect that Xian Feiling would put forward this proposal at this time. Under the eyes of the public, if they didn't agree, they would seem narrow-minded and narrow-minded. The most important thing was that Qin Wuyu didn't violate the rules. The reason why he was impeached was that he had a conflict with Qi Xiaoyun because of Yi Chunjun and Huang Muji, the descendant of the ninth peak. Therefore, Qi Xiaoyun and others could only attack Qin Wuyu in the name of impeachment. Taking a deep breath, Qi Xiaoyun forced himself to suppress his gloominess and said expressionlessly, "Since Brother Xian has spoken, how can I still haggle with Qin Wuyu? This matter ends here." After that, he turned around and left. Qi Lingzhen's death was a heavy blow to him, and the fact that Lin Sun had proved immortality could no longer be changed. All this made Qi Xiaoyun almost unable to suppress his inner anger. He was worried that if he didn't leave now, he would probably burst out. If that happened, the consequences would be unpredictable. After Qi Xiaoyun left, Fu Wenli, Qi Wen, Tang Qiu and other big shots also left one after another. Today's events made them feel a little disheartened. As they left, the atmosphere in the hall became more relaxed. "Brother Qin, do you mind if we ask for a glass of wine in the ninth peak?" Xian Feiling suggested with a smile. Qin Wuyu laughed heartily. "I'm too happy to mind. Brothers, please." "Lin Sun, you come too." Qin Wuyu looked at Lin Sun and invited him. "Okay." Lin Sun readily agreed. Soon, a group of people rushed to the ninth peak. Witnessing this scene, the other successors of the 3 pavilions and 9 peaks could not help but realize that from today on, Lin Sun's status and reputation were destined to be different from before. At least, he had the ability to stand shoulder to shoulder with some big shots. The ninth peak. Xian Feiling, Duguyong, Fang Daoping, Qin Wuyu, Xiao Wenyuan, Li Zhen and other big shots gathered together, drinking and chatting. Lin Sun came to toast them one by one. Staying with these big shots of Yuan sect made him feel uncomfortable, so he got up and left without delay. Qin Ruoling, Xian Jiuyin, Jin Tian Xian Wei and others had already set up the banquet and were already waiting there. When Lin Sun sat down, the atmosphere suddenly became lively. Xian Jiuyin was very excited. He frequently clinked his glass with Lin Sun, trying to get Lin Sun drunk. Jintian Xianyue had been smiling all the time. Her beautiful face glowed with a different kind of vitality. From time to time, she poured tea for Lin Sun, moistening him silently. Lin Sun was also very relaxed, drinking and chatting happily with everyone. However, she did not know whether it was an illusion or overthinking, but Jintian Xianyue always felt that Lin Sun seemed to have something else on his mind. Senior Sister Qin, when I stand firm, I will save senior brother Huang Muji. I will also seek justice for senior brother Yi Chunjun. Lin Sun said to Qin Ruoling softly. Qin Ruoling raised her glass and toasted Lin Sun seriously. Lin Sun thought of something else. Feng Qixi and Drifting Cloud Feng were also implicated by him and were now imprisoned in the Reflection Prison. Now that he had proved the immortal Tao, he naturally would not stand idly by. Brother Lin, I have something good to tell you, but you have to drink 300 cups of wine. Xian Jiuyin shouted and looked at Lin Sun with a smile. What is it? Lin Sun raised his eyebrows. Xian Jiuyin pointed at the wine jar. You drink first. Lin Sun said angrily, What if I don't agree? Xian Jiuyin laughed and handed a jade slip to Lin Sun. After you read it, you can drink 300 cups of wine. Lin Sun was skeptical. He opened the jade slip casually and was shocked. His eyes widened and an unconcealable ecstasy appeared between his eyebrows. After a long time, he carefully put away the jade slip and drank 300 cups of wine in front of everyone. This scene confused everyone and they all asked Xian Jiuyin about the contents of the jade slip. Xian Jiuyin laughed and said, This is Brother Lin's family business. I can't tell you. At this time, Lin Sun came to Xian Jiuyin with a wine jar in his hand and pressed his shoulder. Why didn't you tell me earlier? When Xian Jiuyin was about to explain, Lin Sun poured a jar of wine into his mouth. I will spare you this time after you finish this jar of wine. Xian Jiuyin struggled but couldn't. He was drunk and screamed. Lin Sun and the others laughed. In Lin Sun's mind, he couldn't help recalling the words on the jade slip. It said, Our Lin family is hidden in the ultimate. Don't worry. Don't worry. Inscription, Zhao Jingxian. In this situation, what harm is there in drinking 3,000 cups of wine? P.S. Before 9 p.m. the next night. Chapter 2839. Xian family was located on the ancient path of stars. Since ancient times, Xian family had never been bullied. Even when the great figures of Luo family like Nameless Supreme Emperor and Shi Tiandi came to the ancient path of stars, they had never offended Xian family. Because Xian family was really confident. Lin Sun did not know where this confidence came from before, but how could he not know now? As long as Xian Feiling, the deputy pavilion master of the ancestral court of Yuan Church, was around, no force on the ancient path of stars would dare to offend Xian family. So, when Xian Jiuyin handed him the jade slip at the banquet, Lin Sun was sure that the contents of the jade slip would not be wrong. This swept away Lin Sun's biggest worry. No one knew how angry Lin Sun was when he learned that his enemies had sent their forces to the lower worlds on the ancient path of stars before he proved his Tao and broke through. This was his reverse scale. Originally, he planned to start preparing to deal with this hidden danger after he proved his Tao to be immortal. But now, as Xian Jiuyin handed him the jade slip, Lin Sun was finally relieved. But soon, he frowned. They had not seen each other for so many years. Why did Jing Xian write only one sentence for him? Wasn't she too stingy? When the banquet ended, he held Xian Juyin in his arms and said, "Why didn't you tell me such important news earlier? I also just received the news from my great ancestor. The ancient path of the stars is too far away. Our Xian family first went to the lower realms, and after searching and investigating, we finally found some clues about the Lin family. Then, we went straight to the sinkhole. After searching for nearly 10 days, we coincidentally met your Lin family," Xian Juyin said quickly. "When the news reached the eternal world from Xian family, it was already after you proved your Tao." Lin soon came to a sudden realization and said, "But why is there only one sentence on the jade slip?" Xian Juyin laughed. "I also heard that this was requested by my sister-in-law. She said that it was enough to record this sentence in the jade slip. If you said more, it would make you miss your friends and family in your hometown and delay your important matters." Lin Sun was stunned. Then, an indescribable warmth and guilt surged in his heart. After so many years, Jing Xian was the only one taking care of the children. As a father, he couldn't be by their side. He really let them down. "Alright, everything has been taken care of. There's no need for you to worry about anything else. If you run into any trouble while cultivating in the Sky Origin Pavilion, just mention my great ancestor's name. It'll definitely help." Xian Juyin patted Lin Sun on the shoulder. But, with a slap on the back of his head, Xian Feiling appeared out of thin air and said angrily, "You are a good-for-nothing. You like to bully others. How can Lin Sun be like you? From today onwards, continue to cultivate in Wild Cloud Residence. Without my orders, do not take a single step out." Xian Juyin immediately wailed. Xian Feiling ignored him and looked at Lin Sun, saying, "You don't have to worry about the Starry Sky ancient path. The Xian family is there." Lin Sun cupped his hands in obeisance and said from the bottom of his heart, "Thank you, Senior." Xian Feiling had not just helped him greatly. In the past, he had also helped his mother, Luo Qing Sun, Mr. Lu, and his uncle, Luo Qingheng, leave Eternal True World. After Luo Qing Sun and the others arrived at the Starry Sky ancient path, it was the Xian family who sent them down to the mortal world. Lin Sun would not forget this great kindness. "You are the successor of Fang Xiyuan and the descendant of Luo Tongtian. How can I not help you? You don't have to thank me. Remember, even if you become immortal, you have to follow the rules in the Yuan family. This will only benefit you." Xian Fei Ling reminded him with a smile. Lin Sun nodded. That night, he went straight back to his own cave abode in Sky Origin Pavilion. In the cave abode, Lin Sun sat cross-legged in meditation, consolidating his cultivation. Wisps of immortal laws spread out and turned into an immortal divine ring behind him. As he operated his cultivation, the immortal divine ring rotated slowly as if it had a life of its own. The immortal divine ring was an obvious sign of reaching the heavenly longevity realm. In his body, his life imperial realm had completely changed into the immortal Tao realm. The immortal Tao realm was the foundation of the immortal Tao path. It was like a real vast world, formed by the cultivator's own laws and cultivation. The universe, the stars, the mountains, the rivers, the plants, and the surroundings were all condensed by pure immortal laws. The stronger one's Tao foundation was, the more solid and vast the immortal Tao realm would be. Lin Sun's immortal Tao realm was different from other cultivators at the same realm. It showed a profound mystery of life and death, a cycle of destruction and rebirth. It was as if his immortal Tao realm was undergoing nirvana at all times. It was extremely shocking. Besides that, gray and hazy chaotic chi coiled around it and transformed into the most abundant eternal quintessence, causing the entire eternal Tao world to reveal a divine aura of the beginning of the ages, boundless primordial chaos, and grand and eternal. It was incredible. And this was the key to Lin Sun's immortal Tao path, that was completely different from other cultivators at the same realm. To put it simply, Other heavenly longevity realm immortal Tao realms were like a universe in the boundless world. Then Lin Sun's immortal Tao realm was like a realm in the eternal true world. The difference was like the clouds and mud. All of this was obtained during his breakthrough into the Tao. That unprecedented calamity had given him an unprecedented path towards the Tao. It was the path of the immortal exalt, the Tao of Nirvana, and the legendary Tao that the master of the core dimension had been waiting for since time immemorial was finally realized by Lin Sun. Only when Lin Sun was cultivating did he realize the true profundity of this Tao. His energy of the Grand Tao had absorbed the energy of the Nirvana order during the tribulation and condensed it into the immortal law. It could be called the Nirvana law. When he fought Qi Lingzhen and the others, their 9th grade heaven rank immortal law couldn't suppress the Nirvana law at all. However, the most miraculous thing about the Nirvana order wasn't in battle but in Nirvana. This meant that the more order Lin Sun refined and absorbed in the future, the stronger the Nirvana order would be, and it would allow its power to break through ceaselessly. Simply speaking, the Nirvana order didn't have any grade because its power could transform and improve ceaselessly. At the same time, the Nirvana order possessed the miraculous energy of destruction and rebirth. It could reconstruct and rebirth other order energies, and it could also completely refine and annihilate them. For example, Shaoxian, Xiaoming, and Wushuang, who were still in the Nirvana order, were all reconstructed and reborn by the Nirvana order. In Lin Sun's view, the Nirvana order was more like a mother, which could resurrect other order energies and nurture them, which showed that the Nirvana order was not simple. Lin Sun couldn't help but wonder whether he could bring those who had died back to Nirvana when he completely understood the mystery of the Nirvana order, because the power of reconstruction and rebirth was truly too inconceivable. In addition, the place of Lin Sun's divine soul had transformed from the will form into the immortal law. It seemed to be just a change in the name, but in fact, his divine soul had undergone a qualitative transformation and possessed the power of immortality. And this was the root of living as long as heaven. As long as he was immortal, so would he. It meant that the heaven longevity realm possessed the immortal law. Lin Sun's Tao body also underwent a transformation. His skin, bones, blood, flesh, meridians, acupoints, internal organs, his whole body had been destroyed and reconstructed many times in the tribulation, and it contained the surging power of immortality. The aura of a single drop of his blood could crush mountains and rivers and annihilate great emperors. Moreover, even his hair could be considered as immortal material. All of these transformations hid countless profound and brand new profundities, and this was the beginning of Lin Sun's path towards the eternal Tao. Once he fully comprehended all of these profundities, he would naturally be able to go further and further on this path. After an entire half a month later, Lin Sun awoke from his meditation, and his cultivation had been completely consolidated. However, his aura seemed to have become even more plain and flat from the outside. He'd lost all extravagance, and every single move he made was filled with the charm of nature. It was just like the Grand Tao, shapeless and nameless. In a short period of half a month, I've completely exhausted the eternal divine essence in my body. Lin Sun laughed bitterly. Since he'd joined the Origin sect until now, he'd obtained a few tens of thousands of kilograms of eternal divine essence, and it was more than enough to satisfy his cultivation at the ancestral ancestor realm. But now, as he embarked on the path of immortality, the eternal divine essence was no longer enough. Lin Sun remembered that according to the rules of the Origin sect, after the disciples of the 3 pavilions embarked on the path of immortality, they could receive 10,000 kilograms of eternal divine essence, 3,000 kilograms of immortal divine materials, and other various benefits of the sect every month. However, according to Lin Sun's estimation, even 10,000 kilograms of eternal divine essence every month was far from enough to satisfy his current cultivation needs. At least 50,000 kilograms. Of course, the more treasures like eternal divine essence, the better. If I can become a deputy deacon, I can receive 30,000 kilograms of eternal divine essence every month. If I become a deacon, I can receive 50,000 kilograms of eternal divine essence. If I become an elder, I can receive. Lin Sun silently calculated. After a long time, he decided to wait until he could refine the abyssal sword cauldron to the point where he could use it easily, and then seek the position of deputy deacon. At that time, it was inevitable that there would be a battle. Although Lin Sun wasn't afraid, he also intended to prepare well. Deputy deacons seemed inferior to deacons, elders, and deputy pavilion masters, but every deputy deacon had experienced countless fierce battles and tempered for countless years on the path of immortality. In the seventh heaven, these deputy deacons could become the pillars of an immortal emperor clan. There were a total of 24 deputy deacons in the Sky Pavilion. To replace one of them, he naturally had to defeat the other in terms of strength. After making a decision, Lin soon released the abyssal sword cauldron. Buzz! Hundreds of millions of rays of light fluttered, and the abyssal sword cauldron appeared in the void, faintly suppressing the past, present, and future. This cauldron had suffered heavy damage during the heavenly tribulation, but under the protection of the Nirvana order, it was also remolded and tempered, achieving a brand new transformation. It could be said that the current abyssal sword cauldron could be called an immortal Tao weapon. However, Lin Sun still didn't know how powerful it was. After all, when he killed Qi Lingzhen and the other three, he had been empty-handed, and had no opportunity to test the new power of the abyssal sword cauldron. Chapter 2840. A month after Lin's seclusion, Yuankong Pavilion disciple Yu Chuan came and told Lin that Vice Deacon Jin Zhongyue was waiting in the Windwalking Hall. Senior brother Yu Chuan, do you know why Vice Deacon Jin Zhongyue is looking for me? Lin asked. You'll know when you get there, Yu Chuan whispered. Although he was Yu Chuan's senior brother, Yu Chuan showed fear when facing Lin Sun. After all, he was only an ancestor of Jueshing Emperor. Okay. Lin Sun agreed after a moment's thought. Windwalking Hall. Jin Zhongyue sat on the seat of honor. He wore a jade robe, his hair gray and his body skinny. He looked like a skinny tiger sitting on a rock, his aura cold. As an immortal in the early celestial longevity realm, he had been immortal for 5,000 years. Compared to the other elders, he was considered young. But his ranking was quite high, 12th among the 24 vice deacons. When Lin Sun walked into the hall, he saw Jin Zhongyue sitting alone. He cupped his hands and said, Vice Deacon, why are you looking for me? Lin Sun, you have been in Yuankong Pavilion for 8 months. For the first 7 months, you have been reading the Law of Tao in the 9th Palace of Book Mountain. You have not been assigned a position, Jin Zhongyue said indifferently. I called you here to arrange a position for you according to the rules of Yuankong Pavilion. Lin Sun raised his eyebrows. As a disciple of the 3 pavilions, he began to come into contact with the power of Yuan Church. Each disciple had a different position. Although they had little power, they had begun to wield power. They were completely different from the descendants of the 9 Peaks. Like Chao Zonglin, a disciple of Yuankong Pavilion who had made things difficult for Lin Sun. He was only a disciple, but he was in charge of the payment. His power seemed small, but the descendants of the 9 Peaks had to line up in front of him. They didn't dare to slight him. It would be bad if their monthly payment was delayed. After all, there weren't many descendants of the 9 Peaks who dared to deal with Chao Zonglin, except for Lin Sun. Please tell me, Vice Deacon Jin, Lin Sun said. Jin Zhongyue said, every year, the teleportation portal from the primordial realm to the infinite star sea needs to be guarded by a different guard. This time, it's our Yuankong Pavilion's turn. You don't have any duties at the moment, so you can guard the teleportation portal for the time being. His voice was calm and casual. But Lin soon realized that there was something wrong with this job. This was clearly asking him to watch the door and play the role of a gatekeeper. Lin Sun raised an eyebrow. As far as I know, the true disciples of the Nine Peaks should take turns guarding the teleportation formation. It has nothing to do with us at all. Jin Zhongyue said, "You might not know this, but half a year later, the Nine Peaks Tao debate will begin. By then, there will be many big shots from the outside world, including the Ling cult, Wu cult, and Zen cult's messengers. At that time, in order to prevent people with ill intentions from sneaking into our sect, we must strictly guard the ancient teleportation formation and check the identities of the people who come to attend the ceremony. If it was an ordinary disciple, he wouldn't be able to control the situation at all. If an accident happened, he wouldn't be able to solve it in time." When he heard this, Lin Sun couldn't help but laugh. "So you're sending me to be the gatekeeper?" Jin Zhongyue frowned and said, "Lin Sun, don't think that this is a small matter that will bring shame to your status. You should know that since ancient times, the Nine Peaks Tao debate that our sect holds once every 1,000 years has always attracted the attention of the world. When the time comes, only you will be guarding the teleportation formation, and we won't have to worry about anything going wrong." Lin Sun also frowned and said, "The infinite star sea is guarded by a peerless forbidden formation, and the primordial realm is covered by the power of order. Under such circumstances, which idiot would dare to come and have ill intentions? Moreover, in the eternal true world, who would not be afraid of death and dare to cause trouble in the Origin cult's ancestral court?" Jin Zhongyue's face darkened and he said unhappily, "It's never wrong to be careful. You've just entered the sect for a year, and you don't understand the importance of the Nine Peaks Tao debate." Lin Sun said expressionlessly, "If it's so important, why don't you be the gatekeeper, Vice Deacon Jin? That way I, a newbie who has just entered the sect for a year and knows nothing, won't make any mistakes." Jin Zhongyue angrily slapped the back of the chair and said sternly, "Lin Sun, do you still have any respect for the rules? I'm the vice deacon, and I'm arranging a position for you. If you refuse again, you'll be disobeying the arrangement and going against the rules, and you'll be punished according to the law." Lin Sun narrowed his eyes and said, "Why do I feel that Vice Deacon Jin is eager for me to refuse this arrangement?" Jin Zhongyue's expression changed slightly, and he suddenly stood up and said angrily, "Are you saying that I'm deliberately making things difficult for you because I want to punish you?" Lin Sun's expression did not change, and he said, "That's what you said, I didn't say." Jin Zhongyue's expression was gloomy and terrifying. "Lin Sun, I'll ask you again, do you accept this position?" Lin Sun said without hesitation, "Of course I accept. It's the duty of us disciples to serve the sect. Moreover, since the important task of guarding the ancient teleportation formation has fallen on me, I'm naturally duty-bound." His answer was too straightforward, and Jin Zhongyue was stunned. His expression flickered, and he could not figure out what Lin Sun was thinking. There was even a vague disappointment in his heart. Lin Sun suddenly asked, "Vice Deacon Jin, if someone takes over your position, will you be reduced to a disciple and take on the position originally held by that disciple?" "Of course." Jin Zhongyue, who was pondering on his own thoughts, answered casually. He immediately realized something and looked up at Lin Sun, saying, "What do you want to do?" Lin Sun smiled and cupped his hands. "Tomorrow morning, Disciple Lin Sun will take over the position of Vice Deacon Jin in the Heaven's Judgment Arena." After saying that, he turned around and left. Jin Zhongyue's expression was dull, and it took him a long time to come to his senses. He suddenly became furious. How arrogant this man was! In a blessed place of Yuankong Mountain. When he saw Jin Zhongyue coming, Chao Beidu, who had been waiting there, could not help but ask with a smile, "How did it go?" Chao Beidu, one of the 9 elders of Yuankong Pavilion, with the cultivation of Nirvana realm. "This man agreed," Jin Zhongyue said in a muffled voice with a gloomy face. Chao Beidu was startled, and then he smiled. I didn't expect that he would not choose to refuse with his reckless nature. It's really disappointing. He was indeed a little regretful. If Lin Sun refused, he could punish Lin Sun according to the rules of Yuan Church. However, this is not a bad thing. In the next year, Lin Sun will be reduced to the role of a gatekeeper. People coming and going from the transmission array will see him every day. It's not a good feeling. Chao Beidu was full of smiles. An immortal disciple who once fought against 4 people and killed Qi Lingzhen and the other 3 peerless figures, is now reduced to a gatekeeper. How can I not feel sad? He did not notice that Jin Zhongyue's face was very gloomy, and he did not look happy at all. He smiled and said to himself, half a year later, the 9 Peaks Discourse of Tao will begin. At that time, the Spirit Church, Witchcraft Church, and Zen Church will all send messengers to attend the ceremony. Lin Sun, as the gatekeeper, will have to check the identity of these people one by one. Do you think there will be any conflicts at that time? In the past, when the 9 Peaks Discourse of Tao began every 1,000 years, many big shots from the outside world would come to attend the ceremony. As the gatekeeper of the transmission array, it was often the easiest to offend people. In the past, there were many conflicts. Some big shots were dissatisfied with being checked, and they vented their anger on the gatekeeper. In the end, nothing happened. After all, those who were qualified to attend the ceremony were all big shot. How could Yuan Church care about it? The one who felt the most wronged was the disciple who guarded the transmission array. Jin Zhongyue still did not speak, but his face became gloomier. The more Chao Beidu thought about it, the more he looked forward to it. He said excitedly, according to his nature, he is destined to do something that will offend people. Jin Zhongyue finally could not stand it anymore. He coughed and interrupted, Elder Chao. Chao Beidu was startled. Just say what you want. Why are you hesitating? Jin Zhongyue took a deep breath and said, Elder Chao, you may not know that although Lin Sun promised to guard the transmission formation, he threatened to challenge me tomorrow morning to replace me. Chao Beidu was stunned. His eyes widened little by little. Is he crazy? Jin Zhongyue's eyes flickered and he said, someone like him has done many crazy things since he entered the sect. I'm worried. Chao Beidu frowned and interrupted. Jin Zhongyue, you are the 12th deputy deacon. You have been in the heavenly longevity realm for thousands of years and experienced many fierce battles. Do you still not have the confidence to win? Jin Zhongyue sighed. If it were any other disciple, I wouldn't care at all. But this Lin Sun, I really don't dare to underestimate him. Qi Lingzhen and the other 3 are all examples. He already regretted provoking Lin Sun at this time. Although the matter was settled, he also got himself into trouble. Most importantly, if he lost the battle tomorrow, Lin Sun would replace his position and become a deputy deacon. And he would take up Lin Sun's position and guard the transmission array. Thinking of this, Jin Zhongyue shook his head and didn't dare to think about it anymore. With his identity, if he was reduced to the role of a gatekeeper, that would be the biggest joke of the sect. He would lose all face and be too ashamed to show his face. At this time, the smile on Chao Beidu's face disappeared completely. After a long silence he said, There's no turning back. Jin Zhongyue, as long as you win the battle tomorrow, I promise to get you a deacon position as soon as possible. Jin Zhongyue's face turned gloomy. After a long time, he nodded. He didn't believe that he couldn't suppress a newbie who had just achieved immortality for a month with his thousands of years of experience. The news of Lin Sun challenging Jin Zhongyue spread from the Sky Origin Pavilion on the same day. Then, it quickly spread throughout the Yuan sect. For a time, it caused a huge uproar. It's only been a month, and Lin Sun can't sit still anymore? He's going to stir up trouble again. This was the first reaction of many people. It couldn't be helped. Ever since Lin Sun entered the Yuan sect, he would do something unexpected and sensational every once in a while. Until now, when they heard news about him, They subconsciously thought that Lin Sun was going to stir up trouble again. Fixed a bug. The immortal divine halo was the symbol of the heavenly longevity realm. The symbol of the Nirvana God realm would be reset in the future. Chapter 28:41. In the morning of the next day, many people had gathered in front of the arena of heaven's judgment. A month ago, Lin Sun, who had just attained immortality, killed Qi Lingjun and the other three in one fell swoop. His power was like the sun at high noon. Someone sighed with emotion, which caused many people to boo. The scene from a month ago was still vivid in their minds, and they could not forget it. Now Lin Sun was going to fight for the position of deputy deacon. How could they not sigh? Think about it. The position of deputy deacon in the three pavilions has not been replaced by a disciple for 3,000 years. Can Lin Sun change the situation this time? Some people were looking forward to it. It's very difficult. Jin Zhongyue, the deputy deacon, is ranked 12th. He has attained immortality for 5,000 years, and now he has reached the peak of longevity realm. He has a cold temperament and rich combat experience. The immortal rules he condensed are all comprehended from the 9th grade of heaven rank. If he had enough time, he could have entered the Nirvana God realm long ago. Some big shots analyzed. Under such circumstances, Lin Sun has little hope of winning. It was said that there was little hope, not no hope. From this, it could be seen that this big shot did not underestimate Lin Sun. I heard that Vice Deacon Jin Zhongyue is most proud of his battle spear called Black Dragon. It is said to be forged from thousands of immortal materials and tempered by his own law of immortality for thousands of years. Its power is extremely terrifying, and ordinary heavenly longevity realm cultivators are far from being his match. Speaking of which, Lin Sun has only attained immortality for a month. Has he condensed an immortal Tao weapon? People were discussing. They all remembered that when Lin Sun killed Qi Lingjun and the other three 1 month ago, he had been empty-handed and did not use any treasures. This gave people the impression that he still lacked an immortal Tao weapon. Those big shots at the immortal level all knew that it was not so easy to refine an immortal Tao weapon. It needed to be mixed with all kinds of immortal materials to be refined one by one, and it also needed to be nurtured and polished with one's own cultivation and rules. In the boundless world, a true immortal Tao weapon's might was sufficient to shatter a small world. Even in the eternal world, the power of an immortal Tao weapon could not be underestimated. It could easily split mountains and seas and destroy a part of the world. Now, it was only a month since Lin Sun attained immortality. It was not very likely for him to refine an immortal Tao weapon. As time went by, many big shots came, such as Qin Wuyu, the head of the 9th peak, Xiao Wenyuan, Li Zhen, Chao Beidu, and so on. Brother Qin, what do you think about today's duel? Xiao Wenyuan came to Qin Wuyu and asked with a smile. Qin Wuyu looked a little helpless and said, Lin Sun always does things in such a way, often unpredictable. But in my opinion, I naturally hope he can win. His voice was helpless, but there was a hint of ardent hope for Lin. Xiao Wenyuan smiled knowingly and seemed to be lost in thought. Once he becomes a vice deacon, he won't be far from becoming a deacon. At that time, he'll be on equal footing with you in the sect. The deacons of the 3 pavilions were equal to the heads of the 9 peak. Qin Wuyu knew this. He sighed. Sometimes it's not a good thing to make too fast progress. He has been in the limelight too much, which makes others jealous. I hope he can stay quiet for a while. While they were talking, there was a stir in the field. Many people looked in one direction. They saw Lin Sun's tall figure coming from afar. For a moment, people in the field had different expressions. After a month, when they saw Lin Sun again, he was going to fight for the position of deputy deacon. Such a promotion speed amazed and envied some of the seniors. After all, it had only been more than a year since Lin Sun entered the sect. Is Deputy Deacon Jin Zhongyue here? Lin Sun walked straight into the arena of heaven's judgment and glanced around. "Humph, I've been waiting for you for a long time." In a low and cold voice, Jean Jonyue's skinny figure appeared out of thin air and came to the arena. His jade robe fluttered in the wind, and his body was covered with dazzling black immortal law. People in the field stopped talking and fixed their eyes on the two. They held their breath and were full of expectation. One was a young peerless figure who had just reached the immortal level and had incredible fighting power. The other was a fierce senior who had proved immortal 5,000 years ago and ranked 12th among the 24 deputy deacons. This battle naturally attracted a lot of attention. "Deputy Deacon Jean, we don't need to test each other. Let's show our real strength and end the battle quickly," Lin Sun said calmly. His carefree demeanor made many of the successors of the Nine Peaks secretly sad. A month ago, Lin Sun was still in the same realm as them. But now, he had reached the immortal level. They were no longer in the same world. "As you wish." Jean Jonyue's face was as cold as stone. Divine light interweaved, and a spear appeared in his hand. It was pitch black and gloomy, with a cold and sharp aura. From a distance, it didn't look like a spear, but an ancient black dragon with a destructive aura. The Black Dragon Spear. Jean Jonyue had refined it for thousands of years. It was a Dao weapon with thousands of immortal materials. Its murderous aura was shocking. People outside the field couldn't help but stir. Jean Jonyue obviously knew how powerful Lin Sun was and planned to use his immortal Dao weapon as soon as the battle started. Seeing this, Lin Sun smiled. Buzz. Above his head, the abyssal sword cauldron suddenly appeared. The ancient and vast cauldron sprinkled hundreds of millions of obscure light rain, which made his figure look like a dream. "This is his natal monarch weapon." Exclamations sounded. "No, this treasure should be called Immortal Dao Weapon. Its aura is immortal. It can't be wrong." The eyes of some great figures narrowed, and they couldn't help but be moved. Refining his natal monarch weapon into an Immortal Dao weapon in 1 month? This speed was appalling. People who had speculated that Lin Sun didn't have an Immortal Dao weapon were all stunned at this moment. "It seems that you are well prepared." Jean Jonyue's heart sank. After agreeing to fight with Lin Sun yesterday, he pondered over Lin Sun's weaknesses for a whole night. In the end, he came to 2 conclusions. First, Lin Sun had just broken through and was only at the early stage of heavenly longevity state. His cultivation was much weaker than him. However, Lin Sun's foundation was terrifying, which made up for the gap in cultivation. In other words, he might have an advantage, but not by much. Second, when Lin Sun killed Qi Lingjun and the others, he was barehanded. It was very likely that he didn't have an Immortal Dao weapon. Because of this, Jean Jonyue was very confident in this battle. The Black Dragon Spear in his hand was very powerful, far more powerful than ordinary Immortal Dao weapons. With this, he could suppress Lin Sun. But he didn't expect that Lin Sun would take out his sword cauldron before the battle started. The immortal aura around the cauldron proved that this natal monarch weapon had been refined into an Immortal Dao weapon. This increased the pressure on Jean Jonyue. "If I didn't have some confidence, how would I dare to think about replacing Deputy Pavilion Master Jean?" Lin Sun said calmly. His qi was also running to the extreme. In this 1 month, he had consolidated his cultivation, and had completely grasped the might of the transformed abyssal sword cauldron. However, he hadn't tested it in a battle, so Lin Sun didn't know how powerful the abyssal sword cauldron was now. But right now it was the perfect opportunity for him to do so. "Haha, then I'd like to see if you can defeat me." Laughing loudly, Jean Jonyue held the Black Dragon Spear and flew into the sky. In an instant, he stabbed the spear thousands of times, stirring up shadows of the spear that covered the sky. The black immortal light was like a falling galaxy, majestic and majestic. Boom! The heavens' judgment arena was in chaos. All kinds of destructive phenomena appeared. With just one strike, Jin Zhongyue displayed the terrifying power of an experienced immortal, causing a burst of exclamations outside the arena. Some big shots frowned. Was it worth using so much power to deal with a young man who had just ascended to immortal? Clang! In the next moment, a deafening sound of collision resounded. The immortal power surged like a volcanic eruption in the arena. The abyssal sword cauldron hovered in the air and blocked Jin Zhongyue's attack. The black dragon spear was terrifying, but it couldn't move an inch. It couldn't even shake the abyssal sword cauldron. Everyone's heart skipped a beat. They were in disbelief. Blocked? Open! Jin Zhongyue let out a long roar. His immortal aura blazed as he swung the black dragon spear down. It was as if a chaotic black dragon had descended from the sky. This was the power of a peak heavenly longevity level cultivator. Jin Zhongyue was sure that if it was someone on the same level as him in the outside world, they wouldn't be able to block this strike. To put it simply, even if he was a deputy deacon, he was from the Yuan clan. In his eyes, his peers in the outside world were no different from chickens and dogs. But now, he was using such a strike against Lin Sun. Clang! Another earth-shattering collision. The entire arena shook violently, and a dazzling and terrifying torrent of destruction surged through the heavens and the earth. This strike caused the weaker cultivators to feel a sharp pain in their hearts. They were affected and couldn't help but be astounded. But unexpectedly, when the dust dispersed, Jin Zhongyue's overbearing strike was once again blocked by Lin Sun's abyssal sword cauldron. The arena was in an uproar. Those big shots were surprised. It's only been a month, but Lin Sun's sword cauldron has become so strong? Deputy Deacon Jin, is this your true strength? Lin Sun's voice resounded, and there was a hint of disappointment in it. Suddenly, Jin Zhongyue's face turned completely gloomy. He seemed to have been infuriated. He took a deep breath and didn't say anything before he used his strongest attack. Star Dance! Suddenly, the Darkness Dragon combat spear in Jin Zhongyue's hand droned like the roar of a dragon. When it was swung and stabbed forward, it seemed as if an expanse of stars had fallen from the sky above the heavens' judgment arena. A myriad of stars exploded apart, and it gave rise to a vast and destructive force. This power of destruction accompanied Jin Zhongyue's attack. It was as if it was going to pierce through time and space and crush everything in this world. It was too terrifying. The heirs on the outside couldn't open their eyes, and their minds were completely shaken. This strike made them deeply understand the terror of a veteran immortal. The big shots stared at it, and their eyes flickered when they sensed the power of Jin Zhongyue's strike. Star Dance. This strike contained all of Jin Zhongyue's cultivation, laws, will, and even his heart's blood in it. The power was so strong that even the Nirvana God-level big shots were stunned. Clang! Lin Sun stood still, and the abyssal sword cauldron emitted a rain of light, blocking the terrifying strike. The stars shattered, and the destructive torrent dissipated. In the midst of the rumbling, the black dragon battle spear was bent into a terrifying arc. But in the end, it didn't even shake the abyssal sword cauldron. This scene immediately caused a commotion, and it caused an uproar. The three attacks, each stronger than the last, were all blocked by the sword cauldron, and couldn't move an inch forward. This was unbelievable. The big shots didn't expect the abyssal sword cauldron refined by Lin Sun to be so strong and sturdy. It stood there like it was the only one, and it wouldn't move for eternity. On the other hand, Jin Zhongyue's face turned solemn. He let out a roar, and his hair and beard fluttered as if they were on fire. He waved the black dragon battle spear and slashed it down. You can't do it more than 3 times. Take one of my strikes. At this moment, Lin Sun, who had been motionless, suddenly moved. He soared into the sky, and the abyssal sword cauldron rumbled as he charged forward. Clang! 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 The black dragon battle spear kept stabbing, hacking, smashing, sweeping, and cutting, but it couldn't break the defense of the abyssal sword cauldron. There was only a burst of thunder-like collisions, and a string of dazzling sparks splashed. At this moment, Lin Sun's eyes turned cold, and he said silently in his heart, "Up!" A Taoist sword suddenly swept out of the mouth of the cauldron filled with obscure chaotic qi. Hui? Mu mu ji po egg flute tired? Liao yiting? What? Pan ku po ping shi? Lu mao wan ao? It didn't seem to be eye-catching, and it was very ordinary. Go. But when this Taoist sword was waved down, crack! With a crisp cracking sound, the tip of the black dragon battle spear was cut off by the sword, and the fracture was smooth. This was the black dragon battle spear. A powerful immortal Taoist weapon was cut off like a piece of tofu. This sudden turn of events caused Jin Zhongyue's heart to bleed, as if a part of his heart was being torn apart. He was both shocked and enraged. However, he was not given a chance to react at all. After the Dao sword sliced off the tip of the black dragon battle spear, it slashed towards him. Dishi? Mu f *king? The slightest bit of favoritism? Is the orchid covered in weeds and the huai basket broken? Ing yin and yen ping? Traces? Su pao bad ing ting 11 lu huang shi? 5 zinc? / p whoosh. In just an instant the sword qi disappeared. Nothing happened. There were no signs of destruction. After the sword slashed down, it disappeared. Everyone outside the arena was bewildered. What's going on? When he looked at Jin Zhongyue again, he seemed as if he'd suffered an unprecedentedly heavy blow, and he was stunned on the spot with a dazed expression. After a long time, he sighed in a low voice, "The new generation has replaced the old. I have lost." His voice was full of unspeakable bitterness and disappointment. At this time, people clearly saw that on the top of Jin Zhongyue's forehead, a straight line of blood spread down, appearing on the bridge of his nose, lips, jaw, throat. That dark red line of blood was actually a shallow sword mark. P.S. A chapter of 4,000 words is sent to you. Chapter 2842. The crowd was silent. The shallow blood-red sword mark extended from Jin Zhongyue's forehead all the way down. Anyone who saw it would have the same thought in their mind. If the sword had used a little more force, wouldn't Jin Zhongyue have been cut in half? The descendants of the 9 peaks were dumbfounded. They couldn't imagine how Jin Zhongyue, a peak heavenly longevity level cultivator and the 12th vice deacon of the Sky Pavilion, could be defeated by a single sword strike. The scene was too shocking. Some vice deacons felt chills down their spine. They asked themselves, could they block such a sword strike? What shocked them was Lin Sun's sword cauldron. The black dragon spear was easily cut in half. This undoubtedly proved that Lin Sun's sword cauldron was the best even among the immortal Dao weapons. The key to Jin Zhongyue's defeat was that he didn't expect Lin Sun's sword cauldron to be so strong. It was indestructible in defense and invincible in offense. That was why he was caught off guard by Lin Sun's sword strike and lost. In the Heaven's Inquisition arena, Lin Sun said calmly, "From today onwards, the important task of guarding the teleportation portal will be handed over to you." Everyone was stunned. Guarding the teleportation portal? You may not know this, but yesterday Deputy Deacon Jean issued an order to appoint Lin Sun to go to the transmitting formation and guard nearby. But now Deputy Deacon Jean has been defeated. Lin Sun will take over his position, and Lin Sun will be replaced by Deputy Deacon Jean. An important figure said, revealing the truth. The crowd was in an uproar. They finally understood why Lin Sun challenged Jin Zhongyue today. It wasn't because he started trouble, but because Jin Zhongyue made things difficult for him. Making a peerless figure like Lin Sun be a guard is not just making things difficult for him, it's humiliating on purpose. Many people said angrily, then Deputy Deacon Jean doesn't deserve any sympathy. This is called lifting a rock and smashing it on his own feet. Serves him right." Someone sneered. Jin Zhongyue's face was dark, his heart filled with shame and bitterness. He couldn't stay any longer and left. Seeing this, Chao Beidu, the elder of the Sky Pavilion, had a gloomy expression. On this day, Lin Sun defeated Jin Zhongyue and replaced him, becoming one of the 24 vice-deacons of the Sky Pavilion. As soon as the news came out, the entire Yuan sect was shocked. On this day, people also deeply remembered Lin Sun's incredible fighting power and his immortal Tao weapon. Deacon Tao, what are the duties of a deputy deacon? Lin Sun found Deacon Tao Ling as soon as he returned from the arena of Heaven's Inquisition. Tao Ling handed a brand new sect token belonging to a deputy deacon to Lin and said, "The 24 deputy deacons, each in charge of a different kind of affairs." In the past, Jin Zhongyue's duty was to judge and punish the true disciples of the Nine Peaks when they violated the law. He paused for a second and continued, "Now that you have replaced Jin Zhongyue's position, your responsibilities will be the same. Of course, most of the time, everyone has nothing to do, so they concentrate on cultivating." "I see." Lin Sun finally understood. Tao Ling thought for a while and couldn't help asking, "Lin Sun, now that you have become a deputy deacon, when are you going to seek the position of deacon?" He was really curious. In just over a year, Lin Sun had been promoted continuously from an inherited disciple of the Ninth Peak to a deputy deacon. Needless to say, according to this trend, Lin Sun would definitely seek a higher position. "I haven't thought about it yet," Lin Sun said casually. "This time, Jin Zhongyue offended me. Otherwise, according to my original plan, I would wait for half a year to fight for the position of deputy deacon, and I never thought of fighting against Jin Zhongyue." Tao Ling had a strange look in his eyes and said with a smile, "If Jin Zhongyue knew it, he would regret it so much." They chatted for a while and then Lin Sun left. Returning to his blessed place, Lin Sun sat cross-legged and meditated. Now he was a deputy deacon, but it was extremely difficult for him to become a deacon, an elder, or a deputy head within 100 years. For example, the conditions to become a deacon were extremely harsh. In terms of cultivation, he must be at the late stage of longevity realm. In addition, he also needed to pass a sect assessment. The content of the assessment was issued by a big shot at the level of deputy head of Yuanqing Pavilion. Most of the assessment was related to the execution of an extremely difficult sect task. Finally, he was qualified to challenge one of the 12 deacons. If he could defeat the opponent, he could smoothly become a deacon. And this was just to become a deacon. If he wanted to become an elder of one of the 3 pavilions, the conditions were more demanding and abnormal. To put it simply, he must have the cultivation of Nirvana realm. This alone was not what Lin Sun could achieve now. Even now, if he wanted to become a deacon, his cultivation was not enough at all. He must be at the late stage of longevity realm. For Lin Sun, the current goal was to hurry up and improve his cultivation as soon as possible. Lin Sun, who was practicing, suddenly felt a palpitation in his heart and opened his eyes. Unbeknownst to him, the big white cat with smooth, snow-white fur and a plump figure was already squatting not far away, staring at him with a pair of jade-green eyes. "It's you, Senior." Lin Sun breathed a sigh of relief. "I want to talk to your martial uncle," the big white cat said in a majestic voice. Lin Sun didn't dare to refuse and invited Kong Ju out of Abyssal Sword Cauldron. Kong Ju was sleeping soundly. Even if he was invited out, he directly lay on the ground and fell asleep again without opening his eyes. When Lin Sun was about to wake him up, he was stopped by the white cat. Its green eyes stared at Kong Ju, and mysterious light emerged in its pupils. No one knew what it was sensing. Although Lin Sun had doubts in his heart, he still refrained from asking. "Fellow practitioner." After a long time, the white cat suddenly said, "This place is not suitable for you to practice. Why don't you go to my place and stay for a while?" Kong Ju, who was sleeping soundly, immediately turned over and sat up, saying, "Do you have wine?" The white cat said, "Yes, and it's your favorite divine brew, Army Breaker." Kong Ju got up, his eyes shining with excitement. Let's go. The white cat nodded. The next moment, it and Kong Ju disappeared, leaving Lin Sun no time to ask, let alone stop them. In fact, he couldn't stop the white cat from taking Kong Ju away. Just thinking of the scene just now, Lin Sun couldn't help but have a thought. Had Martial Uncle's state of mind been restored? Suddenly, a suet jade bottle and a token appeared out of thin air. The majestic voice of the white cat sounded in Lin Sun's heart. This bottle can condense 1,000 immortal elixirs of sun and moon every month, and one elixir is equivalent to 1,000 kilograms of immortal marrow. Within 100 years, you can use this bottle temporarily. In this token is my Dharma form. It can be used 3 times, once a month, in case of fatal danger. You've helped your senior brother a lot, and you've also helped me a lot. These are some gifts from me. Remember, don't mention them to others, and don't use my Dharma form in the Yuan sect. Lin Sun was shocked. He was caught unprepared by this sudden gift. I've helped Martial Uncle and the white cat a lot? But when did I help, and what did I help with? Why didn't I know? Lin Sun was confused. After gradually calming down, he suddenly remembered what his master, the master of the square inch, had said. Martial Uncle Kong Ju's state of mind was affected by his pursuit of the immortal supreme way, and the only one who could help him solve this problem was Lin Sun. Could it be that Martial Uncle Kong Ju saw everything I experienced when I was proving the immortal Tao, allowing him to see through some of the profundities of the immortal sovereign path, allowing his collapsed mental state to recover? Is it the same for the white cat? The more Lin Sun thought about it, the more he felt that it was so, and he felt much more relaxed. It would be great if he could help Martial Uncle Kong Ju. Shaking his head, he didn't think any more and took the suet jade bottle and the token in his hand to look at it. The suet jade bottle was only 9 inches high and as thick as a child's arm. It was crystal clear and white, and it was cool to touch. The mouth of the bottle was enshrouded with wisps of immortal breath. Lin Sun tipped the jade bottle, and suddenly a pigeon egg-sized elixir emerged. It was bright and fragrant, and immortal Taoist patterns intertwined on the surface of the elixir. Inside the elixir, there were suns and moons rising and falling, surging with immortal essence. Immortal elixir of sun and moon. Lin Sun's eyes lit up. One elixir was equivalent to 500 kilograms of immortal marrow, and this bottle could produce 1,000 immortal elixirs in a month, which meant that he didn't need to worry about immortal marrow during cultivation for 100 years. What a treasure! Lin Sun exclaimed in his heart. This suet jade bottle was absolutely an incredible treasure of immeasurable value. Then, he took the token in his hand. The token was heavy like jade and dark all over. Its surface was covered with the extremely obscure power of order. When Lin Sun's spiritual awareness probed into it, boom! His mind seemed as if it had exploded apart while a vast universe floated up into appearance. A myriad of stars circulated within it, and a figure sat cross-legged there. His entire body emanated a myriad of strands of eternal divine radiance that were boundlessly brilliant and mighty like a god, and he suppressed this universe. When he saw the figure clearly, Lin Sun was stunned. Prime Minister Yen Ji. Some time ago, Lin Sun and Mo Lanshan went out to carry out a 9-star sect mission. In a place called Songtu World, they were attacked by the ancestral court of voodoo cult. At that time, Mo Lanshan used Yen Ji's spiritual image to defeat the 2 big shots of the ancestral court of voodoo cult. Meng Shan was killed, and Zhu who luckily survived. It was also at that time that Lin Sun saw the horror of Prime Minister Yen Ji. His spiritual image killed Meng Shan and Zhu who were at the immortal level, without any power to resist. So that big white cat is really the solitary words pavilion master. Lin Sun calmed down after a while. He had long suspected the identity of the white cat, and now he got a clear confirmation. This token can be used 3 times. In other words, I have 3 trump cards to protect my life. Lin Sun was excited. The immortal elixir of sun and moon could help him cultivate. This token could be used as a trump card. It could be said that the gift from the White Cat was absolutely generous. It was worthy of being Prime Minister Yen Ji. P.S. I'm out on business today, so I'll be a little late tomorrow. Chapter 2843. A deputy deacon's monthly salary was only 30,000 caddies. It might be enough for other cultivators at the same level. But Lin Sun was different. He needed at least 50,000 caddies of immortal marrow every month to meet his cultivation need. He had been worried about this before. But now that he had the immortal elixir from Yen Ji, things were different. Suppressing his excitement, Lin Sun put away the token and cleared his mind. He took out an immortal elixir and swallowed it. Boom! An incomparably surging torrent of power spread madly in his body like a wild horse out of its reins. The vigorous and pure power made Lin's body shake violently, and he felt as if his body was about to burst. He didn't dare to think too much. He ran his cultivation to refine it. 8 hours later, the efficacy of the immortal elixir was completely refined. Lin Sun clearly felt that his cultivation had improved a little. Even a little bit was enough to excite Lin Sun. Without thinking too much, he took out another immortal elixir and continued his cultivation. A whole day passed. Lin Sun refined 3 immortal elixirs, which was equivalent to 1,000 caddies of immortal marrow. 1,000 kilograms a day, that's 45,000 kilograms a month, which is equivalent to swallowing 90 sun-moon immortal pills. This bottle can condense 1,000 sun-moon immortal pills a month, which means there are 910 pills left every month. Thinking of this, Lin Sun was filled with unspeakable satisfaction and joy. He was even a little annoyed that he couldn't refine so many immortal elixirs because of his cultivation. It was like getting rich overnight. He had so much money that he didn't know how to spend it, but Lin Sun also knew that as his cultivation improved, he would need more and more immortal marrow. Yen Ji had given this bottle to Lin Sun for 100 years because he had realized that the immortal elixirs in this bottle would be enough to meet his cultivation need. Time flew. 3 months later, when Lin Sun refined another immortal elixir, his cultivation in the early stage of the longevity realm had reached its consummation. He was about to enter the middle stage of the longevity realm. Just one more step. Lin Sun opened his eyes slowly. He didn't need any opportunity to break through the middle stage. What he needed was a breakthrough after extreme suppression. No matter how hard he practiced, it wouldn't help. And to break through was actually very simple. Fight. The power cultivated had to go through the tempering of battle before it could be unleashed to its fullest potential. Immediately, Lin Sun stood up and walked out of the cave. The 9th Summit. Peak Master, I'd like to know how senior brother Yi Chunjun was injured when he was out adventuring. Lin Sun found Qin Wuyu and questioned him. He would never forget this matter. During the 7 months he was in seclusion in the 9th Palace Hall of Books, Yi Chunjun had gone out to travel and carry out a mission, but he had suffered heavy injuries. This was clearly the work of his enemies. Qin Wuyu said, "Are you planning to avenge him?" Lin Sun nodded. "Since I joined the sect, senior brother Yi has taken care of me a lot, but he was hurt by the enemy because of me. I should stand up for him." Qin Wuyu hesitated for a moment and said, "At that time, Chunjun didn't let me tell you, because he was afraid that it would affect your state of mind. But now that you have reached the heavenly longevity realm, there is no harm in telling you now." It turned out that the place where Yi Chunjun went out to carry out a mission was the central main domain of the 7th heaven. After completing the mission, Yi Chunjun encountered a well-planned ambush on his way back and was seriously injured. If he hadn't relied on the power of the sect token to obtain a slim chance of survival, he would have almost died. Qin Wuyu said, according to Chunjun, the one who attacked him was a heavenly longevity realm assassin from the Hidden Void World, titled Demon Master. Hidden Void World. Lin Sun was surprised. How could he not know about the Hidden Void World? When he was in the Kiliakosm battle domain, he was assassinated by Crane, who was ranked 6th, and Frost, who was ranked 4th. This was a mysterious and ancient sect. It was also extremely famous in the eternal true world, and even some immortal emperor clans were somewhat afraid of it. According to Qin Wuyu's explanation, there were a total of 12 immortal assassins in the hidden void world, known as the Four Gods. The Four Gods were Demon Master, Demon Master, Demon Master, and Qi Master. The 8 gods were named after the 8 trigrams, such as Qin God, Li God, Qian God, Kuan God, etc. The 8 gods were the most mysterious. For countless years they rarely went out. This time, the one who injured Yi Chunjun was one of the 4 gods, Demon Master. A heavenly longevity realm assassin. How crazy is this hidden void world? How dare they attack the successor of our Yuan sect? Lin Sun couldn't help but ask. Qin Wuyu said coldly, "The hidden void world doesn't dare, but it doesn't mean others don't dare. Do you know who the real force behind the hidden void world is?" Lin Sun shook his head. "The immortal giant Jing family of the 8th heaven." Jing family? Lin Sun was shocked. According to the rumors, the Jing family was extremely low-key among the 10 immortal giant. Although they weren't ranked at the top, their foundation was extremely terrifying. The Jing family and the Fu family have a good relationship. Since ancient times, the 2 families have been connected by marriage. The hidden void world's lord is an old man from the Jing family. His name is Jing Hengzhen. Few people in the outside world know this secret, but everyone in the Yuan sect knows it. Qin Wuyu said, "When I found out about the assassination attempt on Chunjun, I immediately guessed that it must have been at the behest of Vice Pavilion Master Fu Wenli. At that time, he would do anything to affect your state of mind." Lin Sun narrowed his eyes and said, "Peak Master, if I want to deal with this Demon Master, where should I go to find him?" The hidden void world is very good at hiding. Their whereabouts are unpredictable. It's extremely difficult to find a big shot like Demon Master. Qin Wuyu said, "After the assassination of Chunjun, I immediately went to ask Vice Pavilion Master Fong Daoping for help." Vice Pavilion Master Fong? Lin Sun was surprised. Qin Wuyu laughed and said with emotion, "Don't be fooled by his tranquil temperament and aloof from worldly affairs. A long time ago, he was a ruthless person who killed people without blinking an eye. About 17,000 years ago, Vice Pavilion Master Fong, who was still an elder at that time, went out to travel with his successor. On the way, he learned that the successor's family members were all killed by the assassins of the hidden void world. There were 149 people in the family, but none of them survived. That descendant was so angry and sorrowful that his mind was affected. Deputy Pavilion Master Fong was so angry that he went to the hidden world in the sky alone and chopped off countless bloody heads. Just the immortal realm characters alone, 13 of them were killed. Almost no one in the outside world knows about that battle, but in the 4 great ancestral halls and the 8th heaven, it caused an uproar. Lin Sun couldn't help but gasp. Alone, he killed so many people in the hidden void world. If it weren't for Qin Wuyu's words, he really couldn't imagine that such an indifferent person like Fong Daoping could do such a thing. After learning about Chunjun, Vice Pavilion Master Fong gave this jade talisman to me. With that, Qin Wuyu took out a round and translucent gray jade talisman. According to him, the base of the hidden void world has been moved many times and is extremely difficult to find, but it is not difficult to find the assassins of the hidden void world. With this talisman, go to the central main domain of the 7th heaven and find an old man named Fane in a city called Starstream. Then, you can find clues about the assassins of the hidden void world. Lin Sun's eyes lit up and said, "Peak Master, can you lend me this jade talisman?" Qin Wuyu smiled and handed the jade talisman to Lin Sun. "If it was before, I would definitely not agree with you to do this, but now, it is very suitable for you to go there." After a pause, he said, This time, do you want Elder Mo Lanshan to accompany you? Lin Sun shook his head. I am enough, there is no need to bother Elder Mo anymore. Then you have to be careful on the road. Qin Wu pondered. If those in our Yuan sect who are hostile to you know that you are going to the seventh heaven, I am afraid that there will be a lot of killing. Peak Master, don't worry, I have my own means to protect myself. If they really dare to take any action, I will make them suffer. Lin Sun said with a smile. After leaving the ninth peak, Lin Sun went straight to the ancient transmission array of the primordial realm. When he arrived there, he saw a familiar figure. It was Jin Zhongyue. Today, he was no longer a vice-deacon, but a disciple. Guarding this place, to an immortal realm senior like him, was undoubtedly an extremely humiliating task. This is called reaping what you sow. When he saw Lin Sun's figure appearing from afar, Jin Zhongyue's face became gloomy. There was uncontrollable hatred and fear in his eyes. Lin Sun smiled and ignored him. He walked straight into the ancient transmission array and soon disappeared. Jin Zhongyue stepped forward and looked at the aura of the ancient transmission array. He couldn't help but raise his eyebrows. What is this guy going to do this time? While thinking, he immediately took out a communication jade slip, imprinted the news of Lin Sun's trip, and sent it out. Lin Sun, you shouldn't have done things so ruthlessly. Since you took away my position, don't blame me for being rude. After doing all this, Jin Zhongyue's heart suddenly became a lot happier. The seventh heaven. The central main territory. When he came to the outside world again, Lin Sun couldn't help but sigh with emotion. More than a year ago, he arrived in the seventh heaven with senior sister Juanhuan, lurking in an ordinary alley in Cold Moon City, where he opened a shop called Cloudguard House. There, he also met a lively and lovely little girl, Noa. He didn't know how her cultivation in the Spirit Origin Sword Mansion was now. Shaking his head, Lin Sun put his hands behind his back, moved in the void, and began to hurry on his journey. 10 days later. Starstream City. At night, the city was brightly lit like a dragon, dazzling, and there was a river of stars in the sky, flowing like a stream of stars. That's how Starstream City got its name. As soon as Lin Sun entered the city, a wave of noise and excitement came to his face. The streets and alleys were decorated with lanterns and colored banners. There was a long stream of traffic, shouting, and playing sounds one after another. The world of mortals and all kinds of people were reflected in Lin Sun's eyes. Lin Sun was like a passerby, walking among them, feeling the joy, anger, and joy in the bustling city, leisurely and contented. This was the first time he returned to the seventh heaven since he joined the Yuan sect. It's just that his state of mind was completely different from before. Chapter 2844. There was an endless stream of people on the bustling street. Lin Sun held the jade talisman given by Qin Wu in his palm, feeling its aura and moving forward. After entering Starstream City, the jade talisman seemed to wake up from silence. It glowed with a strange fluctuation and pointed to a place in the city like a compass. After a quarter of an hour, Lin Sun came to a deserted drugstore. An old man in gray with sparse hair was already standing there. When he saw Lin Sun, he couldn't help but be slightly stunned. Lin Sun shook the jade talisman in his hand and said, "Do you know this thing?" The old man in gray immediately breathed a sigh of relief and bowed. "I'm Feiyun. How should I address you?" Lin Sun said, "Lin Sun, Deputy Deacon of Yuan Church." The old man in gray, who called himself Feiyun, seemed extremely shocked. He looked Lin Sun up and down and said, "Are you Lin Sun who joined Yuan Church more than a year ago?" Lin Sun nodded. Feiyun's eyes drifted and said, "It's amazing that you have become a deputy deacon in such a short time." He seemed to be quite clear about the affairs of Yuan Church, so when he learned Lin Sun's identity, he seemed so shocked and surprised. "Please come in, Your Excellency." After inviting Lin Sun into the drugstore, Feiyun directly closed the door, and then cupped his hands and said, "Your Excellency, Are you here for the hidden void world? Lin Sun was surprised. How do you know? Feiyun smiled and said, a long time ago, I was an assassin in the hidden void world with the cultivation of heavenly longevity realm. When Senior Fong Daoping went to the hidden void world alone, he spared me because I was not a bad person. Lin Sun suddenly understood and couldn't help being shocked. 17,000 years ago, this old man named Feiyun was already in heavenly longevity realm. Since then, I have left the hidden void world and lurked in this Starstream city. I promised Senior Fong Daoping that no matter what he needed in the future, as long as I can help him, I will not refuse. Feiyun said, now that Your Excellency has come with a jade talisman, I think the only thing that can help you is related to the hidden void world. Lin Sun praised, Your Excellency has sharp eyes. Feiyun smiled and asked, may I ask why you are looking for the hidden void realm? Lin Sun didn't hide it and said, I want to know the whereabouts of Lord Qi. Lord Qi. Feiyun's eyes became serious. After a long silence, he said, very well. Do you have any difficulties? Lin Sun asked. Feiyun shook his head and said, it's simple, but we'll need to wait for a few days. Please follow this old man to the outskirts of the city and pick a secluded place. If a battle breaks out, we can avoid harming the people of Starstream City. With that, he pushed the door open and left. Lin Sun didn't think too much and left with them. 2 hours later, in a mountain range tens of thousands of li away from Starstream City, Feiyun took out a mysterious sword-shaped talisman, poured a drop of essence blood on it, and gently pinched it. Bang! The talisman exploded and transformed into a strange and mysterious line of blood that soared into the sky and vanished into the boundless night sky. After doing this, Feiyun seemed to be much more relaxed and said, this old man has sent the news to Lord Qi through the communication means of the hidden void realm. He will come within 3 days. Are you using yourself as a bait? Lin Sun suddenly noticed something. Feiyun smiled. I know I can't hide it from you. If I don't do this, it will be extremely difficult to find traces of Lord Qi unless I kill my way to the hidden void realm. Lin Sun's heart was in turmoil. Do you know that if your identity is exposed, the hidden void realm will not let you go? My life is given by Fong Daoping. For more than 10,000 years, I have been living in Starstream City. I have long planned to return my life to him. Feiyun looked calm. What's more, if I don't use myself as a bait, Lord Qi will never come. Speaking of this, his eyes were cold. Since I left the hidden void realm, in their eyes, I am a traitor. If Lord Qi knows that a traitor is here, how can he remain indifferent? Lin Sun couldn't help but be moved. Don't worry, I will not let you be implicated this time. Feiyun smiled and said, it's okay. Suddenly, he asked, do you have wine? Lin Sun handed over a wine gourd. Feiyun took it in his hand and drank freely. After a long time, he smacked his lips and said, good wine. If you don't mind, can you tell me the reason why you seek revenge on Lord Qi this time? Lin Sun nodded and told him about Yi Chunjun. After listening, Feiyun couldn't help but laugh. How crazy is the hidden void realm? They dare to provoke the descendants of Yuan School's ancestral court. Do they really think that they can be safe with the support of the Jing family of the 8th heaven? If I can survive this time, I must wait and see how the hidden void realm is destroyed. His voice was full of deep hatred. That kind of hatred was branded in his bones and couldn't be concealed at all. This surprised Lin Sun. After thinking about it, he said, you will definitely see that day come. While the two were talking, Feiyun's eyes suddenly shrank and said in surprise, someone is coming. With that, he suddenly rose into the air, and his eyes were like torches, looking into the distance. All of a sudden, his expression became dignified. It's really them, but it's been less than a quarter of an hour. How can they come so fast? Lin Sun was also surprised. This was very abnormal. It's definitely the people of the hidden void realm. I'm too familiar with their aura. Should we avoid them for the time being? Feiyun asked. Lin Sun stretched his waist and said calmly, "No, I'd like to see why they came so fast." Fei Yun nodded and said in a deep voice, "Since they are here, there's no need to hide anymore." His voice resounded through the ink-like mountains and rivers in the night. Silently, in the darkness of the night, a gray shadow appeared. Following that, these shadows squirmed and condensed into many figures. That strange scene was like a ghost from hell. From beginning to end, there was no aura fluctuation, which made people shudder. After so many years, they still act like this, Fei Yun sighed. Lin Sun looked at this scene with his hands behind his back. It was clear that if he hadn't stepped into the longevity realm, he wouldn't have been able to find these figures at all with his previous cultivation. This obviously showed how shocking the attainments of these assassins from the hidden space world were in concealment and concealment. "Fei Yun, it's really you." "No, why is the target with him?" "Something's wrong." 4 figures, 3 men and 1 woman, came from the void in the far distance. They were all covered with obscure black mist, as if they were perfectly integrated with the night, and their aura was strange. They kept looking at Fei Yun and Lin Sun with doubts in their eyes. It seemed that they didn't expect these 2 people to be together. "The situation is not good. The 4 spirits have come together." Fei Yun's voice was unprecedentedly dignified. Lin Sun narrowed his eyes and said, "They came for me, but they were attracted by your message just now, so they came here." Fei Yun was stunned. The night was dark, the mountains and rivers were silent, and the atmosphere became oppressive and solemn. In the distance, 3 men and 1 woman, Demon Master, Demon Master, Demon Master, and Chi Master, stood side by side, like ghosts coming out of the abyss. "Fei Yun, when did you collude with this man?" The leader was Demon Master, a man with a black robe and a bronze mask with a bloody ghost on it. His exposed hands were pale and horrifying. "Traitor, you have disappeared for so long, but today you use the secret method of the sect to send a message. Are you trying to lure us here?" Demon Master was a woman, and her voice was like a whisper, ethereal and feminine. "Sure enough, you came for me." Lin Sun suddenly laughed. "It seems that when I left the sect, my whereabouts have been leaked by some old things. They want to kill me with the help of the hidden void realm." Demon Master and others were silent. Today's situation was very strange, and because of Fei Yun, their whereabouts had been exposed. This abnormal scene caught them off guard. "Why are you together?" Demon Master asked again. Lin Sun said indifferently, "To kill you, of course." Demon Master said, "You have already seen through this killing?" Lin Sun shook his head and said with emotion, "I looked for you to find your hiding place and avenge my senior brother Yi Chunjun, but I didn't expect that you had already taken action. If I had known this, I wouldn't have bothered to disturb you. It was really a coincidence." He didn't expect that what happened to Yi Chunjun would happen to him again. Undoubtedly, the appearance of Demon Master, Demon Master, Demon Master, and Demon Master must be the work of those old things. Yi Chunjun, Chi Exalt seemed to have understood as well, and he couldn't help but laugh with a ghastly smile. What a coincidence! Could it be that this is predestined by the heavens? Yes, you are destined to suffer here today. Lin Sun also laughed, and his sleeves fluttered. "Fellow Fei Yun, you retreat for the time being. Leave them to me." Fei Yun shook his head. "How can I see you alone? Today, I will risk my life to open a way for you." His voice was calm and decisive. He thought that he was only dealing with Demon Master, but now Demon Master, and Demon Master appeared together. This was unexpected, but it didn't matter. It was nothing but death. "If I let you suffer this undeserved disaster today, I will feel guilty for the rest of my life." Lin Sun smiled. "If you really want to help, it's better to wait for an opportunity." Fei Yun was stunned for a moment. He was keenly aware that Lin Sun was very confident, so he nodded after hesitating for a while. "I have never seen such an arrogant person." In the distance, Demon Master sighed. I haven't seen anyone who dares to despise us like this for a long time. His figure was thin, straight like a spear, and his breath was extremely cold. After all, he is the descendant of Yuan Sek. It's normal for him to be so confident. According to the news, although this man has just broken through the realm, his combat power is against the natural order and his Tao weapon is amazing. We can't underestimate him. Otherwise, how could the four of us fight together? Venerable Wang said slowly. Then let's kill this man first, and then deal with the traitor Feiyun. What do you think? Demon Master's voice was like a whisper, drifting between heaven and earth. Great. Demon Master nodded. Chapter 28:45. Whoosh. As the voices of the four venerables fell, the world suddenly changed. It was like a bloody purgatory. The world was red as if it was burning, mountains of corpses were piled up, the sea of blood was surging, and the shrill sound of ghosts crying and wolves howling resounded one after another. The power of the boundary. It was derived from the law of order, not an illusion, but full of the real law of heaven and earth. In this world, there was a bloody, evil atmosphere everywhere, which had a great impact on the mind. If ordinary people were here, they would have been shocked by the bloody purgatory scene. Because that kind of power was by no means something below the immortal level could contend with. Buzz. Lin Sun's tall figure was glowing. He glanced around and suddenly calmed down. This world is called Alaya Prison. It is composed of 4 kinds of 9th-grade secret treasures, namely blood sin, blood punishment, blood sacrifice and blood refining. When fighting here, as long as there is a flaw in the state of mind, it will become a fatal flaw. Not far away, Feiyun's face darkened. This is a group of treasures in the hidden void world. I never thought that they would use it to deal with you. Whoosh. Before his voice died away, an invisible sword chi fell from the sky silently and stabbed straight at Lin Sun's head at an incredible speed. It was also very strange because there was no power fluctuation and no sound. It was impossible to guard against it. Clang! Abyssal sword cauldron emerged above Lin Sun's head and blocked the sword chi at this critical moment. The sword chi exploded inch by inch in the void. But before it ended, a scarlet sharp awl appeared quietly from the void under Lin Sun's feet, glowing with a strange light and violently attacked. At the same time, a black lock and a narrow and slender bone sword appeared in the front and back of Lin Sun respectively. 3 kinds of attacks broke out at the same time like an inescapable net. It seemed that they wanted to dismember Lin Sun with this blow. Above Lin Sun's head, there was a bronze spear waiting for him. If Lin Sun rushed up to the sky, he would also be suppressed. This kind of siege was not only shrewd and fierce, but also flawless, making it impossible for Lin Sun to escape. Feiyun's expression changed after noticing this from afar. Watch out! But to everyone's surprise, Lin Sun didn't dodge or panic. He just stood there as still as a rock. It was as if he had been scared silly. However, in the next moment, an incomparably intense collision sound rang out. Feiyun saw an incredible scene. The scarlet awl, narrow bone sword, and black chains were all blocked by the power of the abyssal sword cauldron, unable to advance an inch. Terrifying ageless laws mixed with killing intent burst forth, capable of easily taking the life of a heavenly longevity realm expert. However, the abyssal sword cauldron was able to resist and continuously neutralize it. Good treasure! This sword cauldron is mine. When the surprised voice rang out, the awl, the bone sword, and the black chain had all vanished into thin air. Even the bronze spear above their heads had disappeared. From the beginning to the end, the figures of the 4 venerables did not appear at all. This seemed very strange and terrifying. But Lin Sun looked very calm and said, "Fellow Taoist Feiyun, be careful. Don't be restrained by them." Boom! As soon as his voice fell, Lin Sun took a step forward. His power suddenly broke out like a big abyss, stirring up the wind and clouds all over the sky. The nearby mountains of corpses and seas of blood could not bear the terrible power and collapsed with a rumble. This expanse of the heavens and the earth seemed to be on the verge of being crushed into oblivion. Crash! A black chain whizzed over, setting off a circle of terrible black ripples. The immortal light was steaming, and there was a vague mixture of all kinds of power of order in it. It was extremely terrifying. But Lin Sun suddenly stretched out his hand and grabbed it. Boom! In the sound of collision, circles of black ripples exploded in the void. The black chain was just about to dodge, but it was firmly grasped by Lin Sun's big hand. Then his wrist shook violently. At the other end of the black chain, a figure was pulled out from the void far away. The figure staggered. It was Venerable Wang. The figure was straight and thin. He seemed to be extremely surprised and couldn't believe that Lin Sun dared to resist with his palm. "Open!" he shouted. The black chain shook violently and mysterious black light emerged. The immortal power of order like a landslide and tsunami hit Lin Sun fiercely. But Lin Sun didn't move at all. When the power rushed over, it was shattered by the light of abyssal sword cauldron, leaving him unscathed. Venerable Wang's face suddenly changed. At this moment, a Taoist sword rushed out of the sword cauldron and gently chopped in the void. Crack! The black chain, which was thousands of meters long, broke in the middle. In the distance, Venerable Wang coughed up blood and suffered a countercharge. The black chain was his immortal Taoist weapon. He had refined it for many years, but now it was destroyed. Die! Suddenly, a bloody cone, a bronze spear, and a narrow-boned sword appeared on the left, right, and top of Lin Sun's head. The power of this blow was far more terrible than before. Clang! 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 An earth-shattering collision resounded. Although the abyssal sword cauldron blocked the attack, it was violently shaken by the impact, which made Lin Sun's figure shake violently and his blood boil. The cultivation of these old fellows was really strong. His eyes narrowed slightly and surged with piercingly cold, killing intent, and then he suddenly took a deep breath and flashed out. Boom! The abyssal sword cauldron emitted hundreds of millions of obscure Taoist lights, and countless immortal laws circulated. Lin Sun's spirit, chi, and spirit were boiling, and he released all his Taoist skills. Looking from a distance, Lin Sun was like an erupting abyss, about to devour the world and destroy the world. He was incomparably powerful. Suddenly, a fierce battle took place. The world was shaking, and there were scenes of collapse and destruction everywhere. Even Flying Cloud in the distance was stunned. Those were the 4 venerables of the hidden void world. The top 4 assassins of the celestial longevity realm had lived for countless years. More than 100 immortals had died in their hands. But now, even with the prison of Alea, the 4 of them attacked together, but Lin Sun resisted all of them. The power of order of the prison of Alea seems to be ineffective against this boy. In the battle, Venerable Wang's murmured voice sounded, full of solemnity. The prison of Alea was their trump card in this battle. It integrated 4 kinds of heaven rank order, and its power was enough to kill most of the same realm in the world. But obviously Lin Sun was an exception. Be careful of his sword cauldron. It's extremely sharp and can easily destroy our Taoist weapons. Not far away, Venerable Wang gnashed his teeth. His heart was bleeding when his black chain was destroyed, and he also realized the horror of Lin Sun's sword cauldron. We can't delay any longer. Use your trump card. Venerable Wang roared. Boom! In the battle, his figure suddenly became incomparably tall, and every inch of his pores revealed a demon domain, in which countless gods and demons were chanting scriptures. 3,000 demon domains suppress heaven. At that instant, Lord Qi seemed to have transformed into a universe. His body contained countless devil worlds, and the energy of countless fiend gods in the devil worlds converged on him, causing his imposing aura to instantly become terrifying to the extreme. Rise! Venerable Wang's figure swayed, and countless demonic blood-colored lightning emerged, condensing into a thunder blood lotus. Her figure stood at the stamen of the flower, and her whole body was full of immortal breath. Blood thunder flower refines the ninth heaven. Tut! Confrontation. At the same time, the power of Venerable Wang and Venerable Wang also changed. Countless scarlet vortexes emerged at the place where Venerable Wang stood, producing strange and terrible tearing and devouring power, like countless bloody mouths opened between heaven and earth. 1,000 vortexes become sea swallows the 9 serenities. Venerable Wang's body was surrounded by 3,000 arms, and in the center of countless palms, a strange scarlet pupil opened. The great Wei demon eyes illuminates the myriad world. All of a sudden, the power of Venerable Wang and demon was completely different from before, as if they had become different people. Kill. Amidst explosive roars, they attacked with all their might, and they were simply like numerous fiend gods from hell that had emerged into the world and executed their respective supreme divine abilities. For a time, the demon domain was dense, the lightning formed a sea, the vortexes swallowed the sky, and the great Wei demon eyes illuminates the mountains and rivers. In the distance, Feiyun's eyes flashed with determination. He couldn't wait any longer. Lin Sun's current situation made him worried. But at this moment Lin Sun suddenly laughed. Fortunately, you didn't let me down. Now it's worth my full effort. Feiyun was stunned. Boom. An indescribable terrible power was completely released from Lin Sun's tall figure, and the abyssal sword cauldron made a passionate and clear cry, as if thirsting for blood. Open! Lin Sun's long hair flew in the air, and the abyssal sword cauldron shone brightly, releasing infinite Taoist light to all directions. All of a sudden, the world seemed to collapse completely. Venerable Demon was the first to bear the brunt. He was shaken and staggered back. Countless scenes of the demon domain emerged on his body, as if suffering a disaster, and more than half of them were destroyed. Immediately afterward, the long and narrow-boned sword in Venerable Demon's hand was cut off like a piece of paper. Before she could dodge, the power released by the abyssal sword cauldron had already rushed to her. Boom! Under her feet, the demonic flower transformed by blood, thunder, and lightning withered, producing a violent wail, and its luster dimmed. She couldn't help coughing up a mouthful of blood. On the other side, the countless vortexes around Venerable Wang's body were destroyed in an instant. The terrible power of the abyssal sword cauldron threw him out. At the same time, Venerable Demon let out a painful groan. His 3,000 arms were torn off, countless broken limbs, and blood sprinkled in the void. It was a shocking scene. Lin Sun rushed out of the encirclement with a majestic figure, like a god coming to the world. A series of actions happened in the blink of an eye. It was so fast that Feiyun, who had made up his mind to help Lin Sun get out of trouble at the cost of his life, had no time to act. When he reacted, the 4 demons had been seriously injured, and Lin Sun had broken out of the encirclement. The bloody scene shocked Feiyun to the point he couldn't help but gasp. No wonder he became a vice-deacon of the Origin sect in just a little over a year. He's absolutely a monster amongst monsters, a monster amongst monsters. Whether I can break through the realm today depends on your ability. In the laughter, Lin Sun's figure was unrestrained and heroic. He was completely released, without any worries, and moved according to his heart. Boom! The abyssal sword cauldron rumbled and crushed the sky, and its power became more and more powerful. On the other hand, the expressions of the 4 venerables were extremely grave and unsightly. How dare this man use them as a stepping stone to break through the realm? P.S. There will be a new chapter tonight. Ask for monthly votes. Chapter 2846. The battle continued. The 4 spirits were all enraged and exhausted all their strength to fight against Lin Sun. They managed to survive Lin Sun's attack, which made the battle even more intense. Lin Sun was happy instead of shocked. He needed such a battle to break through to the middle stage of the heavenly longevity realm. Otherwise, if he wanted to kill the enemy, he would have used the forbidden passing technique to send them on their way. As for the banishment gate and the blade of time, he didn't want to use them on them. Why use a butcher's knife to kill a chicken? In the distance, Feiyun couldn't help but think back to 17,000 years ago. At that time, Feng Daoping was like an invincible god of death. He charged into the hidden void world alone, killing until heads rolled and blood flowed like a river. Everywhere was filled with the terrified roars of immortals. And now, a deputy deacon like Lin Sun, a young man who had just reached the immortal realm, could fight against 4 spirits alone. He was not inferior to Feng Daoping back then. Rumble! In the terrifying battle, Qi Zun's blood-colored all was hit by the abyssal sword cauldron many times. It finally couldn't bear the weight and exploded. Light rain splashed everywhere. Qi Zun bled from its 7 orifices. It was heavily injured. Looking at the other 3, they were also injured and in a bad situation. But Lin Sun was completely different. His battle intent was boiling and his power was like an abyss. In the battle, he killed wantonly. His light covered the entire battlefield. Go! Suddenly, Qi Zun shouted and decided to retreat. They who had experienced countless battles, how could they not know that if they continued fighting, their situation would only get worse and they would be closer to death? They would rather die than defend. They were assassins. If they couldn't hit their target, they would escape 1,000 miles away. If this assassination mission wasn't extremely important, they wouldn't have fought until now. Swish, 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 swish. In an instant, the 4 spirits retreated. In terms of hiding and escaping skills, they had absolute confidence that they could leave safely. The core of the way of assassination was nothing more than 2 words: sneak attack and escape. How could these 4 elders who were well-versed in assassination not be good at this? But at the moment they were about to escape, Lin Sun used the forbidden passing technique. Heaven and earth became silent. The 4 figures were like fishes frozen in a layer of ice, frozen for a moment. It was also in this extremely short period of time that the Tao sword whizzed out of the abyssal sword cauldron and swept through the universe. Puff, 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 puff. 4 muffled sounds rang out almost at the same time, and the figures of the 4 Qi, Mei, Wang, and Liang were all cut in half at the waist by this sword. Blood poured down like a waterfall, and even more terrifying was that under the violent assault of the might of the sword Tao contained within this sword strike, it completely shattered their spirit, energy, and essence, causing them to have no chance of survival. When looked at from afar, the 8 pieces of the corpse fell from the sky, and before they could even land on the ground, they transformed into ashes that drifted into the air. Killing 4 venerables with 1 sword. Feiyun was in a trance for a moment. Then, his entire body was overwhelmed by an uncontrollable shock. As a traitorous senior assassin from the hidden void world, how could he not know that if the 4 venerables wanted to escape, even a Nirvana God realm existence would find it extremely difficult to stop them? But at this moment, not a single one of them had escaped, and all of them had been killed within the Alaya prison. This made Feiyun's heart tremble. Not bad, but in this barrier, you're trapped in a cocoon of your own making. Lin Sun put away the sword cauldron and said softly. The Alaya prison, this barrier was naturally extremely terrifying. If it was used against others, it would definitely have an immeasurable effect. But for someone like him who possessed the Nirvana order, this barrier was practically non-existent. On the contrary, when the 4 venerables chose to fight within this barrier, it was equivalent to adding an additional layer of barrier to their escape. Because of this, Lin Sun seized the opportunity to kill all of them in one fell swoop. Without any emotion, Lin Sun began to clean up the spoils of war. But what made him speechless was that the 4 dignified venerables of the hidden void world only had some immortal essence on them, and no other treasures. So poor? Feiyun walked over and explained in a low voice. Every time assassins from the hidden void world carry out a mission, they would leave their treasures in their lair and travel lightly. Lin Sun finally understood. However, it was not that he did not gain anything. The Alea prison, formed by 4 order artifacts. These 4 secret treasures of order were respectively a dowbell, a chime, a roulette, and a rui scepter. Every single one of these secret treasures was branded with a strand of heaven-rank order energy, and they formed the source of energy of the Hell of Alea. Unfortunately, the order energy was not the source. Without understanding and mastering the mysteries of the order energy, one would not be able to control it. To put it simply, the treasures were good, but for others they were of little value. They were tasteless, but it was a pity to discard them. Lin Sun had an idea and handed the 4 order artifacts to Feiyun. He said, "I've troubled you this time and caused you to be involved in this as well. Take these treasures as a token of my appreciation." Feiyun repeatedly refused. "If you don't want it, who else in this world can use these treasures other than those assassins from the hidden void world?" Lin Sun gave him no chance to explain. Feiyun's heart was in turmoil. He said gratefully, "Thank you." After betraying the hidden void world, he had been hiding in Star Stream City as if he was living an ignoble existence. He was afraid that the hidden void world would come looking for him. Now, in order to help Lin Sun, he used a secret communication method, which was equivalent to exposing his whereabouts. Even if the 4 venerables had been killed, the hidden void world had its own ways to find this place. In other words, from now on, he could no longer stay in Starstream City. He could only flee far away. However, as long as he had the Alea prison, he would undoubtedly have a life-saving trump card. In the future, even if he fled far away, he would not have to fear anything when he encountered danger. "You don't have to be so polite. If I have to deal with the hidden void world again in the future, I might have to disturb you again." Lin Sun cupped his hands. Feiyun was surprised. "Haven't you already taken your revenge?" Lin Sun shook his head. The hidden void world must be removed from the world in the future. This time, he had killed the 4 venerables, which would definitely anger the hidden void world. They might be afraid of his identity as the successor of the Yuan sect and would not dare to go to the Yuan sect to deal with him. In the future, as long as he traveled, the forces of the hidden void world would appear at any time. Lin Sun hated this kind of assassin force that came and went without a trace from the bottom of his heart. Of course, he knew that if he wanted to truly eliminate the hidden void world and not leave any future troubles, he had to overthrow the immortal giant Jing family of the 8th heaven. Otherwise, even if the hidden void world was destroyed, with the support of the Jing family, the hidden void world was bound to rise again. Removed from the world, Feiyun's heart shook. He immediately said solemnly, "If there is a need in the future, try to find me in Jade Elephant City with that jade talisman." "Jade Elephant City?" "Yes, a cunning rabbit has 3 burrows. That's one of the escape routes I left for myself." Lin Sun nodded with a smile. Not long after, he bid farewell and left. 2 days later, Lin Sun appeared in Cold Moon City. On that familiar street, the door of the Cloud Guard house was locked. The shop next door was also covered in dust. It was obvious that it had been closed for a long time. Lin Sun went straight into the Cloud Guard house and searched the courtyard for a moment. He couldn't help but feel a little disappointed. More than a year ago, he and senior sister Juanhuan lived here. Their days were peaceful, ordinary, and relaxed. But obviously, after he entered the Yuan sect, senior sister Juanhuan never came to the Cloud Guard house again. Shaking his head, Lin Sun came to a room and sat cross-legged. 2 days ago, the battle with the 4 demons outside Starstream City allowed him to release and temper his cultivation. He also had the foundation to break through to the middle stage of Heavenly Life Realm. Taking out the mutton-fat jade bottle, Lin Sun poured the sun and moon immortal elixirs into his mouth. Then, he calmed down and began to circulate his cultivation. There were no accidents. Just 3 days later, Lin Sun's body emitted the roar of the great Tao. His cultivation smoothly entered the middle stage of Heavenly Life Realm. Feeling the new power filling his body, Lin Sun felt a sense of satisfaction. Compared to the early stage of heavenly life realm, his cultivation and power had more than doubled. The most obvious manifestation was that when he was in the early stage of heavenly life realm, he could at most refine 3 sun and moon immortal elixirs a day. But now, he could refine 7. That was equivalent to the power of 7,000 kilograms of immortal essence. Even in the ancestral court of the Yuan sect, which was full of monsters and big shots, there was no one in the middle stage of heavenly life realm like Lin Sun, who could refine 7,000 kilograms of immortal essence in a day. A brand new power needs a brand new tempering. It's just that the higher the cultivation, the more difficult it is to find some worthy opponents, Lin Sun muttered. If it was in other realms, he could go to the major cities and participate in those battles. Not only could he learn from each other, but he could also get rewards if he won. But in the immortal realm, he stood at the peak of the world. In the 7th heaven, he could be called a heaven-reaching giant. The battles in the cities didn't have such a level. Just think about it, the battle of a mortal realm could easily destroy the world and destroy the mountains and rivers. Which city could withstand such a battle? Suddenly, a strange sound came from the courtyard, interrupting Lin Sun's thoughts. He was shocked and quietly got up. There was an ancient well in the courtyard. At the bottom of the well, the original power of the Near Order was sealed. The near seamless talisman in the hands of Jun Huan and the other descendants of Fang Siyuan was condensed from the power of the Near Order. With the near seamless talisman, no matter where he was in the central main region, he could instantly teleport to the bottom of the ancient well. At this moment, a figure covered in blood climbed out of the ancient well. Those old bald donkeys of the Zen sect are really ruthless. They almost killed me. This time, I'm lucky to have the near seamless talisman given to me by third senior sister. Otherwise, I'm afraid I'll have to seek revenge for me in the future. The figure's body was broken, and his hair was disheveled. His skin and flesh were torn, and many bones were exposed. It was a shocking sight. But he spoke calmly and ridiculed himself. No matter how serious his injuries were, he couldn't hide his open-minded and carefree temperament. After he walked out of the ancient well, another figure walked out. It was a man who looked like a farmer. He had dark skin and a simple and unsophisticated appearance. He was also injured all over his body, but he didn't care at all. He took out a jade bottle from his arms and handed it to the man, saying in a muffled voice, "This is the medicine I refined. Heal your injuries first. Xue, you and 12th junior brother both have the bad habit of talking too much." The man took the jade bottle and laughed. "I can't compare with senior brother Xinyan. His mouth is so eloquent that even master can't stand it." Suddenly, the farmer-like man sensed something and looked towards one of the rooms in the courtyard. At the same time, Lin Sun opened the door and walked out. P.S. Send it to me. How sad. Why didn't anyone vote for me? Chapter 2847. Junior brother? A rare look of surprise appeared on the farmer's swarthy face, and then he grinned. Haha, I didn't expect this. I really didn't expect this. Not far away, the wounded thin figure was also stunned for a moment, and then he laughed heartily. How lucky it is to meet again after a long separation. Looking at Lin Sun, his face was also full of excitement. Senior brother Pujin, senior brother Xue, how did you become like this? It should be a great joy to meet again after a long separation. But looking at the injuries of the two senior brothers, Lin Sun was a little worried. It's nothing. We met some powerful figures of the Zen sect and had a fight. Pujin smiled honestly. Alas, it seems that we are in a mess. Sorry to make you worry. Xue hurriedly used a secret method to repair the blood stains and wounds on the surface of his body. He also combed his long hair, which made him look less messy. But his face was pale and transparent, and his chi was a little chaotic. Obviously, he was seriously injured. Lin Sun saw all this and said, senior brothers, let's have a rest in the room. We can talk while healing. Okay. Pu Zhen and Shuya agreed with a smile. In the room, the three of them sat cross-legged, and Lin Sun personally poured tea for them. You focus on healing. I will talk to Shuya. Pu Zhen told Shuya that the latter's serious injuries must be healed as soon as possible. Alas, I have suffered some injuries before. Senior brother, you don't have to be nervous. Before Shuya finished his words, Pu Zhen glared at him. Shuya immediately shut up and meditated quietly. Lin Sun couldn't help laughing. It could be seen that Shuya, who was known as the Emperor's Path Scholar, was still in awe of Pu Zhen. Junior brother, why are you here? Pu Zhen asked. Lin Sun told him everything he had experienced when he went out from Yuan sect. When he learned that Lin Sun killed the 4 demons in the hidden world of Void, Pu Zhen was finally moved. Junior brother, you have finally grown up. He sighed with emotion, and his dark and simple face was full of gratification. When he met Lin Sun for the first time, he was only in the Saint realm. Yet now, when they met once more, he was already an influential figure on the path of the eternal Tao, and he'd swept through all of them by himself. Senior brothers, what about you? After talking about his own affairs, Lin Sun also asked about Pu Zhen. Jun Huan had once said that eldest senior brother Dozhan Di, 5th senior brother Qi Jun, 8th senior brother Bo Xuanzi, 11th senior brother Piaozhen, 12th senior brother Shen Yan, and 13th senior brother Li Xianwei had gone to the great universe True Realm a few years ago. It was said that they were searching for a great fortune related to transcendence. As for senior brother Shuya, senior brother Qing Ting, senior sister Qing Yu, and the others, they headed for the numinous church's ancestral court with 3rd senior sister. But now, senior brother Pu Zhen, who had gone to the grand universe True Realm, was with senior brother Shuya, who had gone to the numinous sect's ancestral court. Furthermore, he had been severely injured by the Zen sect's ancestral court's experts. This was undoubtedly very strange. It's a long story. Pu Zhen was silent, as if she was pondering and deliberating. Although senior brother Shuya had his eyes closed, he quickly said, Senior brother, you're too talkative. Let me explain. Little junior brother, it's like this. He went on and on about it. It had to be said that senior brother Shuya was indeed a knowledgeable person. His words were like pearls, and he vividly explained what Lin Sun wanted to know. Pu Zhen also felt helpless. He also knew that he was too talkative. Although he was worried about Shuya's injuries, he didn't interrupt Shuya in the end. When Shuya finished speaking, Lin Sun finally understood. The matter wasn't complicated. Senior brother Pu Zhen and the others accompanied eldest senior brother to seek transcendence in the great universe True Realm, but they were obstructed by the power of the Zen ancestral court. In the end, although eldest senior brother and the others obtained the fortune related to breaking through to the transcendent realm, they were trapped in the great universe True Realm by the power of the Zen ancestral court. The Zen ancestral court was extremely ruthless. They set up an inescapable net, heavily sealing off the great universe True Realm, and even joined forces with the 8th Heaven's immortal forces to guard the great universe True Realm. However, although they were trapped, eldest senior brother and the others didn't suffer a fatal blow. They had been hiding in a forbidden area of the great universe True Realm, so their lives weren't in danger. According to eldest senior brother and the others' thoughts at that time, they weren't in a hurry to leave the great universe True Realm. Instead, they planned to wait for an opportunity to let 5th senior brother Qi Jun, 11th senior brother Pu Zhen, and the others also strive to break through to the transcendent realm. Just like that, dozens of years passed. What eldest senior brother and the others didn't expect was that the 8th Heaven's immortal forces sent a message to 3rd senior sister and the others in the spiritual sect ancestral court. They said that eldest senior brother and the others were besieged and didn't have long to live. 3rd senior sister Ruosu also speculated that this was most likely a conspiracy of the 8th Heaven's immortal forces. However, because she was worried about the situation of eldest senior brother and the others, she sent senior brother Shuya to the great universe true realm alone to inquire about the situation. Just to inquire about the situation, one person was enough. Moreover, senior brother Shuya had many trump cards, enough to deal with some dangerous situations. However, they still underestimated the intentions of the Zen ancestral court and the eighth heaven's immortal forces. When Shuya was on his way to the great universe true realm, he was ambushed and attacked. The Zen ancestral court sent a transcendent Buddha and 4 nirvana gods Fan Zhu to attack Shuya in one fell swoop. At the critical moment, senior brother Pujin appeared, rescued Shuya, and returned to the Cloud Guard house. When he learned about this, Lin Sun was shocked. Although senior brother Shuya was eloquent, his words were filled with great danger. After calming down, Lin Sun couldn't help but ask, "Senior brother Pujin, how did you know that Shuya was in trouble?" Pujin said, "Although we were trapped in the great universe true realm, with senior brother Bo Dianzi's talent and secret technique, we could spy on the movements and conversations of the enemies outside. When we learned that the enemies spread the news that they wanted to lure third senior sister and the others to the great universe true realm, we realized that something was wrong. So, eldest senior brother made a decision to send one person out and inform third senior sister and the others not to come. Then, eldest senior brother and the others fought together. After a great battle, they found a chance for me to rush out of the enemy's encirclement. After that, I met junior brother Shuya on the road. After saving him, I escaped here." Senior brother Pujin was indeed a dull person. His words were bland and simple, and he finished it in a few words. Lin Sun could only imagine some bloody, dangerous, and shocking scenes of fighting at that time. Fortunately, although senior brother Pujin's words were simple, he still explained the whole thing clearly. "Are eldest senior brother and the others okay?" Lin Sun asked. Pujin said, "They are all injured. There are at least 10 old transcendent realm guards outside the great universe true realm. If it weren't for eldest senior brother who has already reached the transcendent realm, he would have been doomed to suffer serious consequences." Lin Sun's heart tightened. Shuya comforted him with a smile. "Don't worry, junior brother. Our senior brothers have experienced all kinds of horror and danger. They will be fine." Pujin nodded. "Yes, this is what eldest senior brother wanted me to tell you after coming out. You can just focus on your own things. Don't worry about the great universe true realm." As if worried that Lin Sun didn't understand, Shuya added, "Eldest senior brother and the others don't have to worry about their lives if they hide in the great universe true realm. If we go to help them now, we will fall into the enemy's trap. That's why eldest senior brother and the others tried their best to send senior brother Pujin out. It's to tell us to do our own things and not be affected by this matter. Otherwise, we will fall into the enemy's trap." Shuya rambled on and on. Pujin nodded and said, "Yes." But if, as soon as Lin Sun opened his mouth, Shuya interrupted, "There is no if." Lin Sun was silent for a moment and said, "Then when do we go to help eldest senior brother and the others?" "When third senior sister and the others finish the matters in the ancestral court of the spirit sect, and when you finish the matters in the ancestral court of the Yuan sect," Shuya said seriously. Lin Sun was shocked. "Become the lord of Yuanqing Pavilion? Doesn't that mean we have to wait for nearly 100 years? Pujin said in a low, muffled voice, "We can wait, but they can't. Don't worry, junior brother. We have waited for so many years in Mind-Heart Mountain for this situation. There's no hurry." Shuya's smile was warm and mellow, his voice clear and bright. "Variables can happen at any time, but they can only passively wait outside grand universe reality. Their every move will be noticed by us. This is our advantage." He paused for a moment and continued. "Presently, they've set up such a great battle formation, and it undoubtedly proves that they've already sensed the true threat that we pose. This is absolutely not a bad thing. In the past, besides Master, all of us who are disciples of the core realm were never taken seriously by them. Lin Sun calmed down a little and said, "What do you plan to do next, senior brothers?" Pu Zhen and Xia looked at each other, and Xia said, "Go to the ancestral court of Yuan sect and warn third senior sister and the others not to act rashly." Lin Sun nodded and suddenly asked, "Senior brother, is Master still alive?" This was the biggest doubt in his heart. The enemies of the eighth heaven all said that their master, the master of the heart core, was destroyed when he went to the ninth heaven many years ago. "He is alive," Pu Zhen said calmly. "He must be alive," Xue said firmly. No matter who it was, they all seemed very sure. "Where is he now?" Lin Sun couldn't help but ask. Xue laughed heartily, "Ha ha, we don't know. We just need to do our own things." Pu Zhen also nodded and was about to say something. At this moment, a deep Sanskrit voice sounded like a morning bell and evening drum. "Taoist Xue, you are laughing so happily. Do you really think that you have escaped this disaster?" Every word had a strange, deafening power that went straight to the heart. As this sentence resounded, an indescribable sense of peace, tranquility, and majesty filled every inch of the void in the room. Chapter 28:48. As soon as that majestic and imposing voice rang out, Pu Zhen took action. He waved his sleeve. He, Lin Sun, and Xue disappeared into thin air. It was so fast that Lin Sun couldn't react in time. Boom! Suddenly, the heavens and earth shook, as if the 9 heavens' thunder had resounded. "Old bald donkey, why is it you again?" Xueya's voice resounded with a hint of coldness. "It's just a battle of orthodoxies. If you convert to my Zen sect, this calamity can be resolved." The majestic, tranquil, and majestic voice resounded. Then, Lin Sun's vision recovered. The world was vast, and golden light shone. Auspicious clouds formed a sea, and Sanskrit chants resounded throughout the world. It was like the legendary Western paradise. 5 figures stood in the distance. The figure in the lead was skinny, with slender white eyebrows and a thin face. He stood on a 36-petaled green jade lotus platform, and a divine wheel appeared behind his head. A vast Buddhist kingdom appeared within it, and it shone brightly. In his hand, he held a purple gold demon subduing pestle. He stood there casually, as if he was the only ruler of the world. Flowers fell from the sky, Sanskrit chants resounded, and countless rays of light scattered down. Looking at him from afar, one would feel insignificant and in awe. In Lin Sun's eyes, it was as if he wasn't looking at a person, but the incarnation of a supreme path that transcended the world and stood above all living beings. It had the charm of overlooking the heavens. It was terrifying. There were 4 figures standing behind the skinny old monk. All of them wore monk robes and straw shoes. Their bodies circulated an immortal aura and emitted boundless light. One of them held snow-white prayer beads, and his figure was lifted up by the auspicious clouds and light. One held a black ruler like an angry Vajra, and the image of a Buddha appeared around him. One held a withered wooden staff, and there was no aura, as if he was meditating. One smiled amiably and held a green lamp. The 5 Zen sect cultivators presided over this world. Their aura was like the golden light of the Great Path, soaking the mountains and rivers, illuminating the world. Little junior brother, the bald donkey in the lead, is called Shi Yi, and he's one of the Zen sect's 9 Buddha supremes. He possesses transcendent realm cultivation. The other 4 are the Zen sect's Brahma Lord, Hong Ku, Hong Jing, Hong Yi, and Hong Yuan respectively. All of them possess nirvana god realm cultivation. Senior brother Xueya's voice sounded in Lin's mind. It was these bald donkeys who seriously injured me not long ago. Fortunately, with the help of senior brother Pu Zhen, I escaped back to the guarding cloud house. I never thought that they would catch up with me. His voice carried surprise and coldness. The place we're at now is called the Goldlight Dharma Realm, and it's condensed from one of the 7 great orders of the Zen sect, the Goldlight Order. It's called the Buddha's Pure Land and the Devil's Purgatory. Being trapped within it will cause one's cultivation to suffer terrifying suppression. When the battle breaks out later, Senior Brother Pujan and I will use our full strength to open a path of survival for you. No matter what, we must send you out. As he spoke, the sound of Sanskrit rumbled in the distance, and it sounded like the chanting of a Buddha. Buddha's Supreme Sure Yi opened his mouth and said, "If I'm not mistaken, the person beside you should be the 50th successor of the heart dimension, Lin Sun, am I right?" A pair of dazzling golden lotus marks appeared in the depths of his eyes, and they shone with a mysterious light as he sized up Lin Sun with surprise and surprise. The other 4 Brahma lords also had different expressions on their faces. It was as if they had never thought that they would run into this young man, whose name had already spread far and wide during their mission to kill Pujan and Shuya. "There's no point in saying all this," Pujan said in a muffled voice. Surging nomological laws of the Great Path surged from his tall figure, and they transformed into mysterious Tao diagrams that stood in front of him and Lin Sun. "It's indeed very boring. We're just here to determine the victor, so why bother with all this nonsense?" Shreya said calmly. He held a scroll in his hand, and his entire body was filled with a majestic aura. His clothes fluttered in the wind, and his aura was so strong that it seemed as if it could reach the heavens. In the distance, Sure Yi said calmly, "This isn't nonsense. If we allow this young man to convert to our Zen sect, then the heart dimension's efforts will be destroyed in a single day. To us, this is naturally the most important matter in the world." How laughable! Shreya waved his sleeve, and rows of dazzling Taoist symbols that looked as if they were forged from divine gold appeared in the air. They shone brilliantly and swept out. A little bit of majestic aura could move 1,000 miles like the wind. Huff! Hong Ku, the Brahma Lord, stepped forward and tossed the snow-white prayer beads in his hand into the air. Boom! There were a total of 108 snow-white prayer beads, and they transformed into 108 figures of Buddhas in the air. Each of them waved their hands and performed the supreme inheritance of the Zen sect. Intense rumbles resounded through the air, and the Taoist symbols on Shreya's Taoist symbols were shattered one by one, turning into a rain of light that scattered in the air. At the same time, Sure Yi said calmly, "Shreya, you're heavily injured, and you're already at the end of your rope. If you continue to fight, you'll only harm the foundation of your great path. I advise you not to have any more thoughts of anger or killing intent." Shreya raised his brows and laughed. "What do you mean by anger, greed, and greed? I'm not a bald donkey, so why should I listen to you? I'm going to fight you." As he spoke, he tore off a page from the scroll in his hand and flicked his wrist. A majestic sword aura condensed. It was 1,000 feet long, and it pierced through the air like a rainbow. The sword aura seemed to be able to split the heavens and earth. A long sword and a cup of wine, the heart of a man. Sure Yi frowned. This time, he didn't wait for the other 4 Brahma lords to make a move. A ray of Buddhist radiance shot out from the 36-petal green jade lotus platform beneath his feet and shot toward Shuya. Bang! The Buddhist radiance was incomparably sharp, and it easily shattered the sword aura. Its momentum didn't diminish, and it continued to stab toward Shreya. This was the strength of a transcendent realm cultivator. A single ray of Buddhist radiance could suppress the reincarnation of the world. "Let me." Pujan waved his fist. It was a simple and direct attack, but it contained an indomitable might. Boom! The golden Dharma realm trembled, and it was as if the auspicious clouds in the sea were being crushed by a giant hand. It dispersed like cotton, and the heavens and earth trembled. Boundless undying energy swept through the area. Lin Sun only felt a piercing pain in his eyes, and his mind felt extremely pressured. He felt like he was suffocating. This kind of confrontation had already surpassed the limits of those in the same realm. It was unimaginably powerful. If it wasn't for the fact that he possessed the potential of an undying sovereign, he wouldn't have been able to stand here. He would have been instantly destroyed by this kind of power. Pu Zhen's body swayed and he coughed out a mouthful of blood. His tanned face was devoid of color. Senior brother. Xueya's heart ached. Pu Zhen grinned. The strength of a transcendent realm cultivator is indeed powerful. However, it can't kill me. You don't have to worry about it. He took a deep breath, and his aura became even more terrifying. In the distance, Buddhist Supreme Shi Yi and the 4 Brahma Lords had calm expressions on their faces. They didn't show any emotions, as if victory was already in their grasp. Most of your trump cards have already been used up in the previous battle. Now you are at the end of the road. Whether you live or die, it all depends on a single thought from me. Shi Ye's voice was like a great bell that resounded through the heavens. I can't bear to destroy the Heart Master's efforts, which he has waited for so long. Now I will give you 10 breaths to consider. If you submit to my sect, you will be reborn. Otherwise, I can only use my strength to protect you and eliminate your enemies. His expression was calm and solemn. Ha ha ha, since the beginning of time, the battle between orthodoxies has always been a battle to the death. Stop talking nonsense and just make your move. Xueya laughed and his aura grew stronger. A man's heart was made of steel. The Heart Master has never produced a traitor. Pu Zhen's voice was deep and determined. In the distance, Shi Yi nodded and said calmly, I knew this would happen. If that's the case, I will personally help all of you. He raised the purple gold demon subduing pestle in his hand. Boom! Countless rays of golden order energy as thick as dragons and pythons appeared in the air. All of them gathered towards the purple gold demon subduing pestle, causing it to shine brightly like a burning sun. An indescribably terrifying and fatal aura instantly surged into the hearts of Pu Zhen, Xueya, and Lin Sun. Let's attack together and pave a path for our junior brother, Pu Zhen said in a deep voice. A black hoe appeared in his hand. His aura erupted like a volcano, and he seemed to be in a frenzied state. Of course. Xueya smiled. His righteous aura shook the heavens and the earth. Vaguely, the sound of the great Tao resounded. Obviously, they'd decided to put their lives on the line when facing Shi Ye's attack. Bang! In the distance, Shi Ye's expression was calm and solemn. He waved the violet gold demon subduing pestle in his hand, and it instantly seemed like a violet sun had soared into the sky. There were 3,000 Buddhas within the sun, the sound of Buddha's chanting was like thunder, and a myriad of rays of light shot out violently. This attack was too terrifying. It was terrifying to the point it caused any rebirth god realm expert to feel despair. Pu Zhen and Xueya exchanged glances, and then they couldn't help but smile. They seemed to be composed after throwing all caution to the wind. They looked death in the eye and were composed. Senior brothers, let me do it this time. Suddenly, Lin Sun's voice resounded. Pu Zhen and Xueya's pupils constricted, and they were just about to stop Lin Sun. Right at this moment, a figure that was mighty like a god suddenly appeared high up in the sky. He emanated a brilliant and resplendent glow, an eternal energy that was vast like an ocean transformed into a myriad of dazzling swords that coiled around him. Clang! Clang! They surged like a tide and swept through the world. Merely his imposing aura was able to oppress the gold light dimension to the point the sky collapsed and everything was destroyed, and it revealed a terrifying scene of destruction. Almost at the same time, Shi Ye's attack swept through the sky. It was as if a blazing purple sun was crashing down on Zhou Su. The golden light of order transformed into raging light that scattered everywhere, and it seemed as if it wanted to melt the heavens and the earth. Boom! The mighty figure was arrogant and domineering as he swung his fist. With a single strike, the blazing purple sun exploded into pieces. Boundless golden light of order scattered everywhere, and even the heavens and the earth shook. Such a tyrannical and domineering punch attracted the attention of everyone present. Pu Zhen and Xueya were shocked as well. They noticed that even though it was just an avatar, the terrifying might that belonged to a transcendent realm expert surged within it. This was naturally the Origin Sky Pavilion Master Yenji's avatar. In the distance, Shurye's eyes narrowed for a moment before he regained his composure and said, "So it's Taoist Yenji. Only his primordial spirit remains, and only his avatar is left. How pitiful!" The shock on the four Brahma lords' faces disappeared as well, and they regained their composure. It was just an avatar that belonged to the Origin Sky Pavilion Master. It wasn't enough to make them feel fearful. After all, they had Buddhist Supreme Shurye and the Gold Light Dimension. Since when did I end up in such a miserable state that even you bald donkeys are sighing in pity? Yenji's avatar snorted coldly, and the billions of sword-shaped laws around its body resonated. Such might made it hard for others to believe that an avatar could possess such power. As he spoke, he took a step forward with his sleeves fluttering. He shouted thunderously, "Bald donkeys, come and fight me!" Chapter 28:49. The four Brahma lords' expressions turned ugly when they heard the word bald donkey. Shurye's expression was as calm as ever. He said, "All of you, go deal with the three remaining core sect disciples. Remember not to hurt Lin Sun. I'll deal with old devil Yenji's will." As he spoke, the 36-petal azure jade lotus platform beneath his feet rumbled, and it carried him up into the sky while the violet gold devil subduing pestle in his hand suddenly swung down. Boom! The vast and blazing purple gold laws condensed into a beam of light that shot towards Yenji. "Today, I'll fucking let you know that even my Dharma image isn't something that just anyone can slander." Yenji grunted coldly, and then a strand of brilliant sword chi suddenly shot out explosively from within his fluttering sleeve. A great battle broke out. The two clashed above the 9 heavens, displaying the intense battle of the transcendent realm. Yenji was extremely terrifying indeed. Even though it was only a manifestation of will, his words carried the law, and his sword insight covered the sky. Every single strike of his sword simply seemed to intend to tear the ages apart and break through the obstruction of the Grand Tao. It was domineering to the extreme. Such might was simply like the supreme gods of the sword Tao of legend. However, Shurye was a true transcendent realm existence, one of the Zen sect's 9 Buddha venerables. His age was ancient, and it was unknown how many tens of thousands of years he had attained this realm. The 36-petal lotus platform beneath his feet was formed from the immortal laws, and the violet golden devil-slaying pestle in his hand was a treasure used to control the golden light Dharma realm. At this moment, he was not much inferior to Yenji. Boom! The area where the two of them fought simply transformed into chaos. It was turbulent and chaotic, and the aura of destruction was shocking. It was impossible to imagine how many cities and rivers would be destroyed if such a battle were to occur in the outside world. However, Lin Sun didn't care about it. This was because the four Brahma lords, Hong Ku, Hong Jing, Hong Yi, and Hong Yuan, had all made their moves at the same time. The Dhyana sect's Fanju was equivalent to the elders of the Yuan sect's 3 pavilions. Each and every one of them had been in the Nirvana God realm for countless years. They were true old monsters who had lived for at least 10,000 years. At this moment, as the 4 Fan Lords attacked together, unparalleled murderous intent flooded over like a tidal wave. "Ha!" Honka's expression was solemn as he took out the snow-white prayer beads in his hand. Immediately, 108 illusory figures of Buddhas rushed out and pressed down. Boom! Hong Jing was like a guardian deity with furious eyes. He held a black ruler in his hand and raised the phenomenon of the myriad worlds of the Buddha as he slapped it over, causing the surrounding space to suddenly shatter. Silently, Hong Yi, who was holding the Buddhist staff made of withered wood, moved forward. His aura was firmly locked onto Shueya. "Little friend, do not struggle. Otherwise, you will suffer physical pain." On the other side, Hong Yuan, who was kind and smiling, rushed towards Lin with a bronze lamp in his palm. Senior brothers, just do as I say, and we'll definitely be able to deal with these bald donkeys. At the same time, Lin Sun told Pu Zhen and Xueya about his decision. The situation was critical, so he didn't dare to hide anything anymore. In such a situation, he had to end the battle quickly. Otherwise, the consequences would be dire. All right. For the first time, Pu Zhen and Xueya protected Lin Sun in the center. Pu Zhen waved the hoe and Xueya controlled the scroll to fight against the enemies. Lin Sun, on the other hand, took out the abyssal sword cauldron and emitted a myriad of rays of light that protected the three of them. Immediately, Pu Zhen and Xueya keenly sensed that the Golden Light Realm's oppressive power on their cultivation had been dissolved. This made them feel energized. Boom! The battle erupted, and the scene was completely chaotic. For a time, the silhouettes of Buddhas could be seen moving about as they performed various supreme and unfathomable secret technique. Every time the black ruler struck out, the scene of Buddha suppressing the world surged out, and strands of obscure and crystalline sharp lights that were like blades revealed a peerlessly sharp and fierce aura of slaughter. This was the power of the withered wooden staff. When the bronze lamp swayed in the air, the snow-white Buddha fire was like a burning star, filled with an unimaginable purifying power. The four Daffin Lords each used their own skills and treasures to surround Lin Sun and the other two and launched an overwhelming attack. That scene caused one's heart to palpitate. It was too terrifying. Xueya was already severely injured, and Pu Zhen was also injured. Even though they tried to resist together, they were still in a passive position and were quickly suppressed. The four Daffin Lords approached step by step. Lin Sun didn't make a move from the beginning to the end. He activated the abyssal sword cauldron and firmly protected the three of them. His expression was terrifyingly calm. Normal attacks couldn't cause any harm to the four Daffin Lords. If he made a move, it would give the enemy an opportunity to attack. He was waiting. The battle was getting more and more dangerous. Pu Zhen and Xueya were already riddled with injuries. At this moment, they were using all their strength to fight. New and old injuries piled up, causing them to cough up blood repeatedly. Their miserable and pathetic appearance made Lin Sun's heart wrench. At the same time, he felt incomparable anger and hatred. This wasn't because Pu Zhen and Xueya were weak. It was because their injuries were caused by Buddha Supreme Shi. If they were at their peak, the two of them would be able to fight against the four Daffin Lords. But it was useless to say all this now. You can't stop me. Why do you continue to struggle? The sea of bitterness knows no bounds. Repent and you will be saved. Hong Ko let out a long sigh. His expression was sorrowful, as if he couldn't bear to see Lin Sun and the others' miserable state. But when he made a move, he didn't hold back at all. His aura was strong and he pressed forward step by step. There is no room for pity in the battle of orthodoxies. I see them as heretics and they see me as one. I will sacrifice my life to protect them. Hong Jing's expression was resolute. He glared at the world and his aura was terrifying. His attacks were the strongest. Don't forget what Buddha Supreme said. Capture Lin Sun alive. Hong Yi reminded. As they spoke, their aura became stronger and stronger. Pu Zhen and Xueya almost couldn't raise their heads. Young friend, come with me. Suddenly, the kind-looking Hong Yi reached out and broke through Pu Zhen and Xueya's defenses. He grabbed at Lin Sun. It was unbelievably fast. At this critical moment, a cold light flashed in Lin Sun's eyes. The talent that he had been suppressing for a long time was released at this moment. The next moment, the four Daffin Lords appeared slightly sluggish. The next moment, a space-time crack that seemed to lead to hell appeared quietly. It turned into a gate that was thousands of meters tall and shrouded them. The two talents, the Death Forbid Dance and the Gate of Exile, appeared at the same time. It was hard to describe how strange and terrifying this scene was. Be it Lin Sun, Pu Zhen, or Xueya, they were all waiting for this moment to come. When it was time to counterattack, they didn't hesitate and moved with all their might. The 4 Dauphin lords who were affected by the death forbid dance reacted quickly. However, they had been pressing forward step by step. By the time they reacted, the gate of exile had already arrived in front of them. Retreat! Hong Ku shouted. The 4 of them relied entirely on the instincts that they had honed through countless years of killing to retreat at this critical moment. They completely unleashed their cultivation. They all sensed that something was wrong and smelled fatal danger. However, they were still one step too late. This was because Pu Zhen, Xueyao, and Lin Sun had already attacked. When the 4 Dauphin lords tried to retreat, they were intercepted by them. Boom! The terrifying sound of collision rang out. It was as if chaos had exploded. Undying turbulence swept out and engulfed the entire area. No! Amidst the panicked and unwilling shouts, Hong Yuan was the first to be swallowed by the gate of exile. Previously, he had been kind and amiable, but at the critical moment, he suddenly tried to capture Lin Sun. He was also the closest to Lin Sun, so he became the first Dauphin lord to be swallowed. Immediately after, Hong Yi, who was holding the wooden staff, staggered and was sucked into the gate of exile by the terrifying devouring power released by the gate of exile. He was attacked by Pu Zhen and could not escape. Next was Hong Jing. He was like an angry Vajra, and the moment he was swallowed by the gate of exile, he used his instincts to shatter Xueya's right arm with a punch. However, he was not spared in the end and completely disappeared from the gate of exile. Only Hong Ku stayed far away. He reacted the fastest and was the first to choose to retreat. Even when Pu Zhen, Xueyao, and Lin Sun attacked together, he forcefully broke through and escaped from the gate of exile. However, his face was ashen, and his eyes were filled with shock and anger. The scene just now had happened so suddenly that it was as if the gate of death had descended and caught them off guard. At this moment, he could only watch as the 3 Dauphin lords, Hong Jing, Hong Yi, and Hong Yuan, were swallowed by the strange and terrifying gate of exile. This made him shudder. In the distance, Xueyao was heavily injured, but at this moment, he was grinning and extremely carefree. Even he did not expect that his little junior brother would bring them such a big surprise. Pu Zhen wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth and said, "Just one more left." He seemed a little unwilling. Lin Sun was even more unwilling and said without hesitation, "Kill him." He had a stomach full of anger and hatred, so he had to completely vent it. As soon as he finished speaking, he used the forbidden death mystique again. In the distance, Hong Ku was not unprepared. In fact, he had immediately used all his defensive powers and tried to escape. However, the terrifying thing about the forbidden death mystique was that it was a forbidden technique that used the power of time. As long as the power of time existed in this world, this mystique would be successful. Although Hong Ku was already a nirvana god, he had not touched the threshold of the mysteries of time. At this moment, even though he used all his power, he was still stopped for a moment. It was also at this moment that Pu Zhen, Xueyao, and Lin Sun appeared in front of him and used their strongest attack. Boom! In the blink of an eye, Hong Ku, a late-stage nirvana god, was hit by Pu Zhen's hoe. His body exploded and his Yuan Shen was severely injured. Xueya's boundless power turned into sword qi and, together with Lin Sun's abyssal sword cauldron, smashed Hong Ku's Yuan Shen into pieces. One attack killed the enemy. The 3 brothers could not help but feel extremely delighted at the bloody scene. This series of killings actually happened in an extremely short period of time. When all of this came to an end, Shi Ye's icy cold shout suddenly resounded in the sky. "Next time, I will definitely take your heads." Almost at the same time, Yan Ji's cold voice also sounded. "You left before the outcome of the battle was decided. When did you bald donkeys become so spineless?" Lin Sun and the others looked up. In the sky, Yan Ji's avatar was broken and dim, but its aura was still so powerful that it made people's hearts tremble. Buddhist Supreme Sure Yi was also in a sorry state. There were cracks on the 36-petal green jade platform under his feet. His face was slightly pale, and there was a bloody sword wound on his cheek that was so deep that bone could be seen. When Lin Sun and the others looked over, Sure Yi snorted coldly and activated the violet gold demon subduing pestle. His figure flashed and disappeared into thin air. Immediately after, the golden Dharma realm collapsed and disappeared like a bubble. Only then did Lin Sun see that they were now standing in the sky of Cloudguard House. Buddhist Supreme Sure Yi was long gone in the vast wilderness. At that time, the sky was clear and the landscape was picturesque. Everything that they had experienced before was as unreal as a dream. Chapter 2850. Under the Sky. Lin Sun was still puzzled. How could a transcendent figure like Sure Yi give up so easily? Did that old bald donkey really run away like that? Shuya was also surprised. If he doesn't escape, the 36 lotus platforms that he spent 100,000 years to condense will be severely damaged. This is the foundation of his Tao eternity. Perhaps he can repair it, but he will miss the opportunity to attain Tao eternity because of it. Between two evils, he can only escape. While they were talking, Yen Ji's broken Dharma idol moved over. Lin Sun and the others suddenly understood. Let's get out of here. Before he finished speaking, Yen Ji's Dharma form, which was already severely damaged, disappeared. Let's go. Pu Zhen took Lin Sun and Shuya and disappeared. After a while, streams of terrifying divine senses swept towards Hanyue City. Although the previous battle took place in the Golden Light Dharma realm, the appearance of this level of power was too shocking. Ordinary people couldn't detect it, but it alarmed many old people in the central main region. After all, this was the seventh heaven. There were many immortal emperor clans and many old people who had stepped into the immortal realm. However, after these divine senses swept over, they found nothing. Whether it was Emperor Sure Yi or Lin Sun, they had already left this world. 3 days later, in the depths of a desolate mountain range, Junior brother, Shuya and I will leave first. Pu Zhen smiled honestly. After 3 days, he and Shuya's injuries had recovered by less than 30%. This made Lin Sun quite worried. Senior brothers, why don't you rest for a while? Now, time is pressing. We can't delay. Third senior sister and the others still don't know what happened in Taiyu True territory. Shuya smiled brightly. Moreover, these injuries won't affect our movements. Don't worry. Well, if you encounter any trouble in the future, you must tell me immediately. I will be in the Yuan sect these years. Lin Sun said seriously. Okay. Pu Zhen and Shuya nodded in unison. After the battle 3 days ago, they all deeply realized that the little junior brother in front of them was no longer the young eagle that needed their protection. The power he grasped could even help these senior brothers to turn the tide. Lin Sun smiled immediately. The attitude of the 2 senior brothers was undoubtedly the greatest recognition of his current cultivation. Now that he could finally help his fellow disciples, Lin Sun felt very happy. On the same day, Pu Zhen and Shuya left together. Lin Sun returned to Chaoyuan sect alone. The most important thing for him to go out this time was to avenge senior brother Yi Chunjun. However, he didn't expect to experience so many things along the way. However, it could also be considered a great harvest. Killing the 4 venerables of the hidden space realm gave him a chance to make a breakthrough in his cultivation, allowing him to step into the mid-heavenly longevity realm in one go. When he returned to the Cloud Guard house, he saw his 2 senior brothers, Pu Zhen and Shuya, and fought side by side with them. They killed 4 Brahma lords, Hong Ku, Hong Jing, Hong Yi, and Hong Yuan, and even forced the Buddhist Supreme Sure Yi to flee in panic. This would definitely be a blow to the ancestral court of the Chan sect. After all, Fan Zhu's status was equivalent to the elders of the Yuan sect's 3 pavilions, and all of them were at the Nirvana realm. Losing 4 of them at once would definitely be a huge blow to the Zen sect. At the same time, this battle also allowed Lin Sun to see how terrifying a transcendent realm was. The power wielded by someone at that level had already reached an unimaginable level. This time, if it wasn't for Pavilion Master Inji's will avatar, the consequences would definitely be unimaginable. The transcendent realm was too far away. To Lin Sun, Nirvana realm combat power gave him the possibility of catching up and even surpassing it. During these 3 days of meditation, he had already understood from his 2 senior brothers that the 4 Brahma Lords had proven themselves for a long time. The strongest, Hong Ku, was at the Nirvana realm great perfection, while the weakest, Hong Yuan, was at the Nirvana realm intermediate realm. Every single one of them had been in the Nirvana realm for many years, and ordinary cultivators in the same realm couldn't compare to them. This finally made Lin Sun not feel so disappointed. Originally, he thought that the difference between the heavenly longevity realm and the Nirvana realm wouldn't be so huge. Only now did he understand that the 4 Brahma Lords were top-notch Nirvana realm old monsters. With his current cultivation, it was naturally difficult for him to fight against them. As for Pu Zhen and Xueya, they were at the Nirvana realm late and intermediate Nirvana realm respectively. According to Xueya, if he was at his peak with Pu Zhen's ability, he would definitely be able to kill Hong Ku, who was at the Nirvana realm great perfection, within 3 punches. From this, it could be seen how terrifying Pu Zhen's foundation was. Of course, Xueya wasn't weak either. Although he was humble about his cultivation, his words revealed the confidence that he could beat up those in the same realm. At the bottom of it all, the reason they were pursued to such a sorry state this time was because the enemy had the Buddhist exalt, Shi Yi, holding down the fort. Otherwise, just the strength of the 4 Brahma Lords alone wouldn't be enough. Yuan realm, near the ancient teleportation array. In a palace, Jin Zhongyue was sipping tea leisurely. A month ago, when Lin Sun left the ancient teleportation array, he immediately sent the news to Sky Pavilion Elder Chao Beidu. After that, Chao Beidu sent the news to Deputy Pavilion Master Fu Wenli. On that day, Jin Zhongyue received Chao Beidu's praise and promised that as long as Lin Sun couldn't return to Yuan clan, he would use his power to restore Lin Sun's position as deputy deacon. After all, with Lin Sun's death, the position of Sky Pavilion's deputy deacon would be vacant. There was no need to fight for it. This naturally made Jin Zhongyue excited and expectant. Especially as time passed and Lin Sun didn't return, Jin Zhongyue became more and more delighted. The bloody scene of Lin Sun being hacked to death often appeared in his mind. As a result, during this period of time, the humiliation and anger in him, who had been reduced to a gatekeeper, dissipated a lot. Suddenly, the ancient teleportation array vibrated. Jin Zhongyue didn't need to guess to know that it was someone from the sect who had gone out to travel. However, when he leisurely held the teacup and took a sip, his eyes widened. In the next moment, he spat out the tea in his mouth and almost lost his grip on the teacup. His face was full of disbelief. A tall figure walked out of the ancient teleportation array. Jin Zhongyue was all too familiar with him. During this period of time, he had been dreaming of the figure being killed. Who would have thought that the figure would come back alive? All of a sudden, as if the expectation in his heart was shattered, Jin Zhongyue felt unprecedented loss and unwillingness. How could this be? Just as his expression was uncertain, Lin Sun came from afar and said indifferently, "Jin Zhongyue, do you know your crime?" Lin Sun's condescending attitude made Jin Zhongyue extremely uncomfortable. He got up from the chair and said expressionlessly, "Deputy Deacon Lin, may I ask what crime I have committed? When I went out this time, I was assassinated by someone from the hidden void world. I seriously suspect that there was a traitor in the sect who leaked my information." Lin Sun's dark eyes were deep, staring at Jin Zhongyue, "And you are the biggest suspect." His words were cold and his momentum was frightening. At this moment, Jin Zhongyue, a veteran of the heavenly longevity realm, felt the pressure coming on his face, and faintly felt suffocated. His body was stiff and his heart was in turmoil. Did this guy's cultivation seem to have broken through? How could this be possible? Although he was frightened, he said sternly, "Deputy Deacon Lin, don't slander me. There is no evidence. You are slandering and slandering me." He had nothing to fear. But Lin Sun smiled indifferently and said, "Didn't you hear me clearly? I said you are the biggest suspect. Whether you are a traitor or not, let Deacon Ling interrogate you personally. In this way you can also prove your innocence." Jin Zhongyue's heart sank when he saw Lin Sun's smile. It was true that Lin Sun had no evidence to prove all this, but Lin Sun could suspect him and interrogate him as a deputy deacon. "How can you suspect me of being a traitor with just a few words? I also suspect that you are using your position to retaliate against me." Saying this, Jin Zhongyue turned around and left. "I want to see Elder Chao Beidu." But as soon as he took a step, Lin Sun grabbed him by the neck and pulled him to his side. "After the interrogation, you can go to Elder Chao Beidu to complain. Now you have to come with me." "Revenge, you are deliberately taking revenge," Jin Zhongyue shouted, trying to cause some noise so that other people in the sect could stop all this. But Lin Sun smiled and said, "This area is sealed by my power of prohibition. It's useless even if you shout yourself hoarse. Just come with me obediently. Besides, if you are not a traitor, why are you panicking and afraid? In the primordial realm, I will not harm your life. That is a great crime." As he said this, he stuffed Jin Zhongyue into the abyssal sword cauldron. This scene was seen by some of the nearby heirs, and they couldn't help but be shocked. But when they reacted, Lin Sun's figure was long gone. But even so, these heirs still realized that something big was going to happen today. "Quick, spread the news that Deputy Deacon Lin is back. He captured Jin Zhongyue and brought him to Sky Pavilion. It's been a month, but Deputy Pavilion Master Lin is still as elegant as ever." All kinds of news began to spread rapidly throughout the primordial realm. Sky Pavilion. Penalty Hall. "You suspect this guy of being a traitor?" Knowing Lin Sun's intention, Taoling couldn't help but look strange. Lin Sun couldn't help but laugh. "If Deacon Tao thinks that I am deliberately taking revenge on Jin Zhongyue, then you are wrong. I can guarantee that he is the most suspicious. Please interrogate him personally." Taoling pondered and said, "If you have no evidence, this matter is very likely to be left unsettled. It will also have some adverse effects on you. After all, everyone in the sect knows that you and Jin Zhongyue have a grudge. If you do this, it is hard to guarantee that people won't speculate that you are deliberately taking revenge on him. It doesn't matter if it is left unsettled. The key is to make it big. Otherwise, when I go out in the future, won't my traces be leaked in advance every time?" Lin Sun said. "Make it big?" Taoling thought. "Yes, it must be big. I have something in my hands. I believe that after everyone in the sect sees it, they will certainly not think that I am making a fuss," Lin Sun said softly. Chapter 2851. Taoling had just interrogated Jin Zhongyue for less than a quarter of an hour. Inside the disciplinary hall, someone came in with a fierce aura. It was Elder Chao Beidu. The first person he saw was Lin Sun, who was sitting in the hall with his eyes closed. He couldn't help saying coldly, "How dare you slander and attack our disciples with your power when you just became a deputy deacon? How arrogant!" Lin Sun opened his eyes and said, "The right and wrong haven't been decided yet. If Elder Chao accuses me like this, it won't end well." Chao Beidu snorted and looked around the hall. He shouted in a deep voice, "Where's Taoling? Why don't you come out and see me?" His voice shook the hall in an aggressive manner. Taoling pushed open the door and came out from the side hall. He cupped his hands and said calmly, "Elder Chao, what can I do for you? Let Jin Zhongyue go. Don't make the same mistake again." Chao Beidu looked cold. Taoling said unhurriedly, "The interrogation has just begun. If we let Jin Zhongyue go now, we won't be able to clear his name. If we can confirm that he is not a traitor after the interrogation, wouldn't it be better? Is it possible? Who doesn't know that you are cold-hearted and cruel? Anyone who is interrogated by you will confess under torture even if he is wronged. Chao Beidu's face was gloomy. Let me ask you again. Will you let him go? No. Lin Sun stood up from the chair and looked at Chao Beidu. Elder Chao is so angry. Are you worried that Jin Zhongyue will say something related to you? How dare you question and slander me? Chao Beidu was furious. He said expressionlessly, You are just a deputy deacon. How dare you disrespect your elders and offend your superiors? Tao Ling, let me ask you, how should you be punished according to the law? Before Tao Ling could speak, a voice came from outside the hall. 1 year's salary will be forfeited and 30 lashes. Along with the voice, a short and fat man in a brocade robe strolled in slowly. He had a mustache, a red nose and small eyes. One of the 9 elders of Yuankong Pavilion, Chu Jian. Brother Chu, you came at the right time. Chao Beidu was refreshed. Today, Deacon Tao Lung and Deputy Deacon Lin Sun colluded to force Jin Zhongyue to confess under torture. How should we punish them? Chu Jian stroked his mustache and said with a fake smile, That's a little serious. If it's light, he'll be dismissed from his position. If it's heavy, he'll be imprisoned. Tao Lung's expression changed slightly. At this moment, another person entered the hall. Do you have any concrete evidence to convict Tao Lung and Lin Sun with just a few words? Or perhaps, as elders of the Sky Pavilion, you intend to use the authority in your hands to run amok? A group of people came, all of them important figures of the Sky Origin Pavilion. There were elders and attendants. Seeing this scene, Lin Sun immediately realized that the news had spread. This was exactly what he wanted to see. As expected, in the following period of time, more and more important figures came after hearing the news. For example, some of the elders and attendants of the Origin Void Pavilion and Origin Clarity Pavilion also rushed over. Some of the peak masters of the 9 peaks also showed up one after another. For a time, the punishment hall was bustling with noise and excitement. Outside the punishment hall, many successors and disciples gathered. They were not qualified to enter the punishment hall, but this did not prevent them from coming to watch the fun. In today's ancestral court of Yuan religion, Lin Sun was a figure of great attention. His every move had long been seen by many big shot. This time, after he returned from a trip, he immediately captured Jin Zhongyue and suspected that Jin Zhongyue was a traitor. This gave those big figures the feeling that Lin Sun was going to make trouble again. Therefore, they all came after hearing the news. If it were someone else, they would not be attracted at all. Such a big movement. Soon, even the 3 deputy heads of the Sky Pavilion were alarmed and showed up in person. The originally noisy and chaotic punishment hall also became quiet. All eyes were on the 3 big figures, Xian Feiling, Fu Wenli, and Qi Xiaoyun. Everyone knew that this dispute, at the end of the day, still depended on how the 3 deputy pavilion masters would decide. Lin Sun, what's going on? Tell me the whole story. Xian Feiling said in a deep voice. Under the watchful eyes of the crowd, Lin Sun looked very calm and said, A month ago, I went out to travel, but I didn't expect that soon after I left the infinite star sea, I would be assassinated from the hidden void world. His words surprised all the big figures in the hall. Hidden void world, how dare you? You actually dare to attack the people of my Yuan sect? It's crazy. Aren't they afraid that we will destroy their hidden void world if they annoy us? This is really strange. Since when did the hidden space world dare to provoke our Yuan sect without fear? His words were full of anger and undisguised contempt. In the outside world, the hidden void world might be frightening, but in the eyes of the big figures of Yuan religion, the hidden void world was just an ancient assassin force. It was not worth mentioning. But now, the hidden void world was so rampant that they dared to assassinate the people of Yuan religion, which was undoubtedly very abnormal. It's inevitable to encounter some dangers and disturbances when you go out to travel. This time you were attacked by assassins from the hidden void world. How can you prove that this matter has something to do with a traitor in our sect? Fu Wenli said coldly. If it was an ordinary danger and accident, it would be fine. But this matter was obviously premeditated. When I left the sect, my trace had been leaked. Otherwise, I'm afraid that the hidden void world would not be able to find me in such a short time. Lin Sun said calmly. So, just because of this, you believe that it was Jin Zhongyue who did it? Qi Xiaoyun snorted. Lin Sun said, as I said, only Jin Zhongyue is the biggest suspect, because he is the disciple who guards the ancient transmission formation. Only he knows the time and whereabouts of my departure. Do you have any evidence? Fu Wenli asked directly. No. Lin Sun looked very calm. The hall suddenly burst into an uproar. Capturing Jin Zhongyue without any evidence? Wasn't he worried that others would suspect that he was trying to take revenge on Jin Zhongyue? Sure enough, Fu Wenli said coldly, as a deputy deacon, you arrested Jin Zhongyue for interrogation just because of suspicion. Don't you think it's too much? This isn't going overboard. This is disregarding the law and is acting recklessly, Qi Xiaoyun said in a low voice. There was a depressing silence in the hall. Everyone could see that the situation was faintly unfavorable for Lin Sun. Unless he could show evidence, he would pay the price for capturing Jin Zhongyue today. Xian Feiling frowned and said, Lin Sun, what else do you want to say? Yes. As Lin Sun spoke, he took out a jade scroll and said, the hidden void realm sent the Ji, Mei, Wang, and Liang to assassinate me. There are some interesting things recorded in this jade scroll. I believe everyone here will understand why I made such a big move and why I wanted to capture Jin Zhongyue, who is the biggest suspect. Jade slip. Fu Wenli, Qi Xiaoyun and others narrowed their eyes. Other big shots on the scene were suddenly enlightened. It seemed that they finally understood why Lin Sun dared to capture Jin Zhongyue with such confidence. Buzz along with a wave of fluctuations, the jade slip began to display a series of scenes, all of which were taking place in the depths of the mountains outside Starstream City. However, it was not the scene of the battle, but the conversation between spirits, monsters and demons before the battle with Lin Sun and Feiyun. Seeing such scenes, the eyes of the big shots present flickered with different expressions. Who is this Feiyun? Someone couldn't help asking. An old man who escaped from the hidden void world. I planned to use his power to find Monster and avenge Yi Chunjun. I didn't expect that Monster and the other three would take the initiative to come to me. Lin Sun explained casually. As he said, the voice of Monster came out from one of the pictures. After all, he is the descendant of the ancestral court of Yuan sect. It's normal for him to have such confidence. According to the news, although he has just broken through the realm, his combat power is against the natural order and his Tao weapon is amazing. We can't underestimate him. Otherwise, how could the four of us attack him together? As his voice fell, Lin Sun put away the jade slip. When he looked at the great figures present again, surprise and bewilderment appeared on their faces. You must have seen and heard clearly that the four spirits got the news, so they came to deal with me at the first time. Lin Sun said calmly, why did they attack me together? Because someone leaked the news to them that although I have just broken through the immortal realm, my combat power is against the natural order and my Tao weapon is amazing. Everyone, before I went out this time, I have been practicing in the sect. Who told the hidden void world that I have reached the immortal realm? Who told these assassins that my combat power is so against the natural order that they need to send the four top assassins in the heavenly longevity realm to deal with me? His voice resounded through the hall and hit people's hearts. These words can't prove that there is a traitor in our sect. Chao Beidu couldn't help interrupting. Lin Sun asked, I just want to ask you, how can the hidden void world know what happened in our Yuan sect so clearly? Everyone here should know that I have only used my immortal Tao weapon once in our sect. That one and only time was when I defeated Jin Zhongyue. But those assassins from the hidden void world knew my Tao weapon before they took action. Speaking of this, Lin Sun stared at Chao Beidu. Elder Chao, in this case, do you think I have reason to suspect that it was Jin Zhongyue, who was defeated by me, who leaked some of my news and whereabouts to the hidden void world out of resentment? Chao Beidu was speechless for a moment. The jade slip that Lin Sun took out just now clearly showed the scenes that happened at that time, including the words and expressions of those people. This made Chao Beidu unable to refute. No wonder you are so angry. If I were betrayed by a traitor, I would also be furious. Xian Feiling sighed with emotion. This sentence won the approval of many big shot. The hidden void world was nothing, but if there was a traitor in the sect who leaked and sold Lin Sun's traces, it was absolutely heinous. But this can't prove that Jin Zhongyue is a traitor. Do you think that with Jin Zhongyue's identity, he can still instruct the hidden void world to send the four spirits to deal with him? Chao Beidu held back for a long time before he squeezed out such a sentence. Lin Sun nodded seriously and said, Elder Chao is right. Jin Zhongyue doesn't have the ability to instruct the hidden void world at all. That's why I captured Jin Zhongyue as soon as possible. I suspect that there is another mastermind behind Jin Zhongyue. His words were earth-shattering. The atmosphere in the hall suddenly became silent and unprecedentedly depressed. Thanks to Awadara, will 90,032, 1770, 518, 8216 and other children's shoes for the monthly tickets in the past 2 days. I will continue to update tonight. Chapter 2852. Like being hit by a stick, Chao Beidu was so depressed that he almost spat out a mouthful of blood. He just said that Jin Zhongyue was not qualified to command the hidden void world, but Lin Sun took the opportunity to say that there was another mastermind behind Jin Zhongyue, which made people feel that he was throwing a brick to attract jade. He couldn't help but take a look at Fu Wenli, who frowned. Although he looked calm, there was a chilling power under the calmness. The atmosphere in the hall was very quiet. In fact, those big shots knew that Jin Zhongyue was just a small role, but they didn't expect that Lin Sun wanted to use this small role to find out the big role behind the scenes. Our pavilion will find out the truth of this matter. The silent atmosphere was broken by the voice of Fu Wenli. His words made people unable to guess what he was thinking. Xian Feiling nodded and said, Deputy Pavilion Head Fu will be responsible for this matter. Be sure to give a satisfactory explanation to the sect and Lin Sun. When Lin Sun was about to say something, Xian Feiling's voice came to his ears. Just stop when it's appropriate. If you continue to make trouble, you will end up with nothing. On the contrary, it will stimulate some people to hate you more. Lin Sun nodded. He also knew this, but he couldn't help but feel helpless when such a result happened. On the same day, what happened in the punishment hall of Yuan Pavilion spread all over Yuan Church, causing countless discussions. The contradiction between Lin Sun and those enemies is getting more and more intense. Many people realized that the assassin in the hidden void world was just a trivial matter. In the final analysis, Lin Sun's rapid rise had already made those big shots who hated him feel threatened. No one would be stupid enough to say these things out. Even those big shots were aware of it, but they wouldn't point it out. Even the 4 demons failed to kill Lin Sun. How terrible is his background? That's why those big shots are afraid of him. I'm afraid that disputes and conflicts like this will happen frequently in the future. It depends on whether Lin Sun can get out of danger again and again like this time. Jin Zhongyue is so unlucky. I'm afraid that he will become a victim this time. While everyone in Yuan Church was talking about this storm, Lin Sun returned to his blessed cave. Only 1 day later, Taolun came to visit him with good news. Jin Zhongyue is finished. Seeing Lin Sun, Taolun said in a low voice, Today, Vice Pavilion Head Runli issued an edict and Elder Chao Beidu announced it in person. Last night, Jin Zhongyue committed suicide for fear of disturbing the order of the sect because of his mistakes. Lin Sun's pupils shrank and he felt a chill in his heart. What a nice way to commit suicide! His eyes darkened. These old fellows are really ruthless. Tao Ling said with deep meaning, "This is the price you should pay for doing something wrong. Otherwise, would you be willing to accept it? Will those big shots in the sect be willing to accept this?" Lin Sun sighed and said, "I just didn't expect that Jin Zhongyue, a strong practitioner at the full completion of heavenly longevity realm, could kill him so easily." Tao Ling corrected him seriously. "He committed suicide to escape punishment." Lin Sun sneered, "Is there any difference?" Tao Ling also laughed. "It's great wisdom to see through it but not say it." After a pause, he continued, "In addition, Vice Pavilion Head Xian Failing has issued an edict that Feng Qixi and Drifting Cloud Feng, Huang Muji, the successor of the 9th peak, and Xiang Xiayuan, the successor of the 7th peak, will be released today." Lin Sun was refreshed. This was undoubtedly good news. "Will Run Li and Qi Xiaoyan agree?" he asked. "Even if they don't want to agree now, they have to pinch their noses and accept it." Speaking of this, Tao Lin corrected Lin Sun seriously. "In the future, you can't directly call the two vice pavilion heads by their names, or you will be regarded as disrespectful and insubordinate." Lin Sun didn't know whether to laugh or cry. "Don't worry, they won't." It didn't take long for Tao Ling to leave. In the afternoon, Lin Sun met Feng Qixi and Drifting Cloud Feng. In the blessed enclave, Lin Sun set up a banquet to welcome them in person. "I'm sorry to let you two suffer." Lin Sun raised his glass and said apologetically. Feng Qixi, who was still dressed in a black warrior suit with a ponytail, looked valiant and charming. Hearing Lin Sun's words, he sighed and said, "It's not a grievance. It's just a pity that I couldn't witness Brother Lin's breakthrough." It was Chao Beidu who ordered Qi Lingzhen, Zhong Liran and others to capture us and imprison us in the purgatory of reflection. Drifting Cloud Feng said, "But now, these 4 people have been killed by Brother Lin. I'm very happy. How can I feel wronged?" As he said, he toasted Lin Sun. "If you really take me and Miss Feng as friends, don't say those words. Let's drink." "Okay, let's drink." Lin Sun happily raised his glass. That night, after the banquet, Lin Sun went to the 9th peak to visit Yi Chunjun, Huang Muji, Qin Ruoling and other brothers. Yi Chunjun and others already knew that Lin Sun's previous travel was to avenge Yi Chunjun and kill the 4 demons, monsters and demons. All of them were deeply touched. Without a doubt, Lin Sun treated them as his own family. After leaving the 9th peak, Lin Sun went to the 7th peak to visit Xiang Xiayuan, who was also quite excited. The two chatted for a long time before Lin Sun left. When he returned to his cave residence, he felt relaxed all over. "I'm only one small realm away from entering the late heavenly longevity realm. At that time, I can seek the position of a deacon," Lin Sun pondered. The conditions to become a deacon were extremely harsh. But for Lin Sun, no matter how harsh the conditions were, he had to do his best. And the first condition to become a deacon was to have the cultivation of the late heavenly longevity realm. In fact, most of the 12 deacons in the Sky Pavilion had broken through to the Nirvana realm. Only 2 or 3 of them were still in the heavenly longevity realm, but they were all in the Great Perfection realm. Lin Sun got rid of all distracting thoughts and started meditating. After knowing that his senior brother and others were trapped in the Taiyu True realm, Lin Sun felt a sense of urgency. After all, although he had already set foot on the immortal path, he was still far behind those big shots in the transcendent realm. Only by improving his strength could he truly help his senior brothers and sisters in the Heart Mountain in the future. A month later, Tao Lin came to visit again and told Lin Sun that in another month, the 9 Peaks discourse that happened once every 1,000 years would begin. He asked if Lin Sun would like to participate. Of course, it was not to participate in the discourse, but to maintain the order of the event. Lin Sun thought for a long time and decided to refuse. The Nine Peaks Discourse was a competition between the core disciples of the Nine Peaks. For him, it had long lost its appeal. At that time, the Spirit Sect, Zen Sect, and Witchcraft Sect will all send envoys. Moreover, the Eighth Heaven's 10 immortal giants and the top forces of the Seventh Heaven will also send important figures to attend the ceremony. Do you really not want to go and have a look? When Taoling said this, Lin Sun immediately changed his mind and agreed. Taoling sneered and said, I knew you wouldn't miss such a grand event. Soon, Taoling left. Lin Sun couldn't help but look forward to it. Would the senior brothers and sisters of the Heart Mountain be among the envoys sent by the Spirit Sect's ancestral court? Time flew by like a shuttle. The day of the Nine Peaks Discourse was gradually approaching. The core disciples of the Nine Peaks had been training hard recently, conserving their energy and making preparations for the upcoming grand event. The top 10 would enter the 3 pavilions to cultivate. The top 3 would be nurtured by the sect and obtain cultivation resources for them to prove their immortality. They could also choose any pavilion to join. For any core disciple, the Nine Peaks Discourse was related to their reputation and future. It's a pity that junior brother Lin Sun's advancement speed is too fast. Otherwise, with him here, the first place of the Nine Peaks Discourse would definitely belong to our 9th peak. Qin Ruoling sighed in the 9th peak. Her words caused Yi Chunjun, Huang Muji, Meng Haochen and other core disciples to sigh. They had cultivated in the 9th peak for many years, but compared to Lin Sun, they were nothing. In just over a year, he was promoted from a true disciple to a core disciple, a disciple of the Sky Pavilion, and now the deputy deacon of the Sky Pavilion. This kind of advancement speed made those big shots feel amazed and shocked. But it was also because of this that Lin Sun had no chance to participate in the Nine Peaks Discourse. Don't you think our 9th peak is not in the limelight enough? Lin Sun alone is enough for the entire Yuan Church to pay attention to us, Qin Wuyu, the peak master, said in the distance. You don't have to care about the ranking in the Nine Peaks Discourse. Just fight for the top with your own ability. That's right. As long as Lin Sun is here, no matter what identity he has in the future, he came from our 9th peak after all. Who would dare to look down on us? Yi Chunjun said with a smile. When Lin Sun first joined the sect, the peak master was quite against him. But now, when talking about Lin Sun, although the peak master tried to hide his inner emotions, the pride between his eyebrows and the seemingly distressed but happy tone in his words all betrayed his inner thoughts. The day before the Nine Peaks Discourse was about to begin, Lin Sun got the exact news from Taoling. This time, the ancestral court of the Spirit Church sent a total of 9 messengers. They were led by Green Cloud Spirit Master, one of the 10 great Spirit Masters. Spirit Master was a title, equivalent to the Deputy Pavilion Master of the Yuan Church. Of the other 8 people, 4 were Spirit Masters, equivalent to the elders of the 3 pavilions of the Yuan Church. The remaining 4 were Spirit Lords, equivalent to the deacons of the 3 pavilions of the Yuan Church. Lin Sun got the list of the 9 people of the Spirit Church from Taoling. At a glance, he saw a familiar name. Qing Yu. Senior Sister Qing Yu, ranked 16th. Lin Sun couldn't help but recall a scene in his mind. When he was on the Starry Sky Ancient Path, in order to deal with the nameless Supreme Emperor, a game of chess broke out. At that time, the senior brothers and sisters of the Mountain of Mind and Heart appeared on the stage one after another, each showing their earth-shattering skills. Senior Sister Qing Yu was one of them. She had a petite figure, ear-length short hair, and wore a plain cotton dress. Her big eyes were as bright as stars, and her face was extremely delicate. Her beauty was a kind of reserved and pure beauty. Those who didn't know her would think she was a pure and cute girl next door. But once she fought, she showed extremely dazzling and terrifying light, which could be described as fierce and overbearing. It was hard to imagine how her delicate body could burst out such a strong power. Because of the huge contrast, Lin Sun was deeply impressed. P.S. Send more updates to me. Today is the 82nd anniversary of the July 7th incident. Don't forget the national humiliation, and the alarm bell rings.